Hello, Bond fans, and welcome to this very special live stream where today myself and Jack, the film fanatic, are going to have a discussion about Bond, James Bond. Well, specifically, we're going to be talking about No Time to Die. The fact that today is the 2nd of April, 2020. We were supposed to be receiving the latest Bond film today, but sadly the film was postponed a few weeks ago due to the coronavirus. And obviously all UK cinemas are closed at the moment, so there's no way the film would have actually got to us at this time anyway, which is very sad to say. And obviously internationally it proves to be a bit of a concern as well. So yeah, but the release date for No Time to Die has been postponed to November the 12th. So we're going to have to wait another 7 months, but hopefully by then the world will be in a better place. And before we go any further, I'd just like to also say I hope everyone's doing okay during this time of isolation and lockdown and quarantine. I don't know what the situation is internationally, but in the UK we are basically on lockdown. So I hope everybody's okay. But yeah, and we're also going to be doing a general talk about the Bond film series overall, just not every film in detail, but just a general kind of basis on what we think of the films and how the series has evolved over the, well, nearly 60 years, shall we say. And potentially a discussion about the Bond video games as well, just anything Bond related, which will get us in the mood and get us hyped for No Time to Die as well. We'll probably talk about No Time to Die and what we hope from the film, and it is going to be Daniel Craig's last time as 007, so that should be fun. So let's kick this off with No Time to Die. So Jack, I'll let you kick this off with the No Time to Die discussion.
Okay, well, I got my James Bond Heineken here. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah.
It's about, yes. Oh, there's Daniel Craig.
Yeah. But yeah, talking about No Time to Die. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's supposed to come out today, and just been postponed again. And you know, I mean, we did videos about this on our channel, but we never really discussed this, you know, on air before. And yeah, it's a real bummer, to be honest. It really is a pain in the ass that it didn't come out by now, because this film, you know, has just been through production hell. I mean, it was originally supposed to come out November 2019, and then they had to delay it to Valentine's Day, and then they delayed it to 2nd of April, and now it's delayed back until the 12th of November 2020. Yeah. I think it is here in the UK.
In the US, it's the 25th, which is even longer for them to wait. I mean, I think they were going to get the film on the 8th of April, but yeah, because obviously Bond is British, is a British thing. But yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. And you know, I mean, I can understand why they delayed it. I understand that they delayed it because of the coronavirus and things like that. But it's such a shame that, you know, we've been waiting so long for this film. I mean, by the time it comes out, it'll be the second longest gap, you know, between a Bond film. The longest gap is License to Kill the Golden Eye, and this will be the second longest of 5 years. And it's just been frustrating waiting for this film. But
you know, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time the film does come out, Daniel Craig will start growing wrinkles. But there you go. But I mean, fair, I think one important thing to take into consideration, particularly with this pushback, is the fact that we were actually very close to getting it. When they announced the postponement, it was actually within like just under a month away from release, which was, we were getting excited as well, which was a real bummer when that happened. To be fair to them, they literally had no other option, because either way, the UK cinemas were going to shut. So they wouldn't have been able to get the film out anyway, and also they wouldn't have been able to make enough money on the film, because China was obviously the coronavirus had been going around, and China were kind of on lockdown, and things were not in a good place. So I think, regardless of the lockdown or whatever, I think it was probably a good idea to push the film back. But it is now
Yeah.
right at the end of the year. But I guess they chose November because it's a safe bet. They seem to have worked out with that before with the Craig films. I mean, all the previous Craig films have had sort of autumn releases like October, November, which is understandable. But it is frustrating because we've been waiting for this film since 2015. I mean, since Spectre. I mean, this is the most recent film, and it's nearly 5 years. It will pretty much be 5 years after Spectre, which is a shame. But unfortunately, not all of that was their fault. But I mean, I guess we can kind of go through the production history of this film because it seems to have been a colossal mammoth of problems, endless sort of rewrites and issues. I mean, I think the first thing to say is that it was a while before Daniel Craig confirmed he was going to come back for a fifth movie. I mean, I was always confident that he was, but after Spectre, he made that derogatory comment about slashing his wrists, which was taken out of context, and he has admitted live that in an interview that that was a stupid thing to say. So he has accepted his wrongdoings there, but he did say he was coming back, and he agreed to do one more. And then they got Danny Boyle on board, and they were writing a script, and then Danny Boyle left the project due to creative differences, which is a real shame because I think if Danny Boyle had stayed, we probably would have the film by now. We probably would have had the film a year ago, but it wasn't to be. So yeah. I mean, look, Jack, were you sort of excited about Danny Boyle being the director, or were you quite happy for him to have left the project when he did?
I was very excited to have him as a director because I'm a big fan of the Trainspotting films. And and if you watch the Trainspotting films, the first Trainspotting film, there's actually a reference to James Bond in there. One of the characters is talking about Sean Connery as James Bond. And Danny Boyle, I mean, he's a massive Bond fan. So I thought, oh, great. I mean, he's a really talented director. And I thought, oh, this guy, he's a fan of Bond. He's a massive fan. He understands what, is great about the Bond series. And, he's a great director. So,
actually, it's important to note he did direct that little short film for the Olympics back in 2012 before Skyfall came out. Daniel Craig did a little short film with the Queen, and Danny Boyle apparently directed it, which was quite amazing. But yeah, sorry, please do continue.
Yeah, and when he was attached as director, I thought, oh great, he understands what makes a great Bond film. He's going to be really good, and I was really disappointed when he left because I mean there were all these rumors going around that he would whatever, and they didn't agree with that decision, so he had to leave, and they said because of creative differences, and I think that was the reason why they pushed the film back to Valentine's Day because they had to find a new director, and then there was all this other stuff going around. Like there was all that stuff where they were saying that they had to rewrite the script, and there was that unfortunate incident on set where one of the sets blew up, which was a shame.
Yes,
I heard. Yeah, and I heard one guy was injured, but I think he was okay. But they had to rebuild the set afterwards, which was a big setback for them. So I mean, the film has.
I think before that, though, sorry to interrupt. Before that, they actually very quickly found Cary Fukunaga, who is currently the director of the film, and thankfully he stayed on board the project. He directed things like True Detective, Beasts of No Nation. So he had a very interesting kind of artsy sort of dramatic palette. I mean, I haven't seen his work, but from what I could tell, he's done some very interesting films and kind of a surprising choice for a Bond film because he's not necessarily the most well-known director. I mean, I didn't know him until he was announced for Bond, but it does entice me to check out more of his work. And judging from the footage that I've seen of this film so far, of No Time to Die, he looks like he was a great choice. Do you have any thoughts on Cary Fukunaga? I mean, thus far.
Well, I'm not familiar with his work. He directed the first season of True Detective, and he's done Beast of No Nation, and he's supposed to be a very good director. So, I mean, at first, I didn't really know what to think about him as director because I was really on board with the idea of Danny Boyle directing
Yeah,
the Bond film, and like I said, he's a really great director, and he's a Bond fan. And I saw
yeah,
Trainspotting 2 in the cinema, and that was a great film. And I thought, wow, if this guy could get his, hands at directing a Bond film, he could do
mm,
a really good job. But yeah, when Kai Fukunaga was announced, I kind of felt like, well, who's this guy? I never really heard of him before. I mean, judging from the trailers and stuff, it looks like it's in competent hands.
yeah,
I mean, we'll just have to wait and see
yeah.
when the film comes out.
I mean, that's it.
But
We can't
yeah,
actually prejudge him as a director before we've seen the film, but judging from what we've seen, as you say, it does look pretty impressive what he's done visually. I think he's got a great eye. I mean, whoever his director of photography is, give them a raise because it looks like the shots look fantastic. So I'm totally down with this. But yeah, and I mean, there were talks. I think in between the transition of directors, I think there were talks about trying to get Martin Campbell to come back, and I mean, I'm surprised they didn't try and contact Sam Mendes to come back. He directed the previous two films, and Skyfall it still is the most successful film in Britain, and it's the highest grossing Bond movie.
yeah.
And then he
Well,
did Spectre as well, which was also very successful. So, but Mendes said after Spectre that he felt he was done. So, okay, fair enough. But I think when in that situation, I would have actually tried to call him, but I guess they didn't.
yeah. I mean, it looks like that anyway. No, I mean, I thought getting back Mendes would have been a good idea, but at the same time, he said he was done with Bond, and I can understand if he wanted to move on to other things. I mean, he directed two Bond films in a row, which not many directors do, and not only that, but he directed 1917 recently, and I'm kind of glad that in some ways he didn't direct the Bond film because then we wouldn't have the masterpiece 1917. But at the
Yeah,
same
well,
time, it
apparently
would.
that kind of inspired him to do that. Because in Spectre they have the opening tracking shot, and that inspired Sam Mendes to do 1917 in one shot, which is impressive. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. No, but I mean, Martin Campbell would have been interesting, but it would have been a little bit weird to bring him back again because you had him in GoldenEye and then you had him in Casino Royale, and calling him back to do another Bond film like 14 years after Casino Royale, it would have been a little bit weird, but at the same time, I think he would have done a really good job. But I don't
Yeah,
know about Martin Campbell. I don't know if he's directed really anything big in the last few years. I mean, I remember he directed Green Lantern, which got really bad reviews, and I don't think he's really directed anything like uh, that's been critically acclaimed since then. But I don't know. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes. So, and obviously, moving forward with the production, as you talked about the explosion that happened on set in Pinewood, that came as a bit of a shock to everybody because that was quite soon into the production. I think that was shortly after Daniel Craig had actually injured himself in Jamaica. I think he'd fractured his leg or something, and he had to take a couple of weeks off filming, which he found kind of frustrating. But yeah, I mean that wasn't the end of it. There was ever so more that happened with this production, but I'll let you take the virtual microphone on this one.
Well, no, I mean, I just think, getting Phoebe Waller-Bridge in to write it was a stroke of genius because she's directed Fleabag and she's also done Killing Eve, and she's a really good writer. So, I mean, I thought bringing her in was a good idea. And, I think, I mean, they have had problems with the production of this film, no doubt, with the rewrites and the director leaving and the explosion on set. But I really think, this is going to be a great send off for Daniel Craig.
Mm.
From the trailers, it looks very good. Naomi Harris said she thought the script was excellent, and I think it's going to be a really great send off for Daniel Craig. I mean, the only thing I hope they don't do, and they could possibly do it, is kill off James Bond, and I really hope that isn't the case. The film's called No Time to Die, but at the same time, Kari Fukunaga could pull a fast one and have Bond die at the end, and I don't know about that. Bond in all the films he's always survived, and I think it would be a bit of a shame if they just decided, let's just kill off Bond. But yeah, I mean, what about you? What are your thoughts on the production stuff?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question because so much has happened. I mean, it took them a while to get the filming going, and thankfully, they went into production. I mean, on the subject of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I can see why Daniel Craig thought she would be a great choice to refine the script. I mean, they had already written the script, but then he wanted her to touch up the script in a manner of speaking, and don't take that the wrong way. Apparently, she wanted to flesh out some of the female characters and change some of the lines and some of the story elements. I mean, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is a very talented person. She's a very witty person, and apparently they've impressed her. Well, sorry, she's impressed them so much that they're going to ask her to do the next film, to write the next script, which is great. So, I hope the script is good. That's all I can say because it's been through endless rewrites. Because when Danny Boyle was on the project, he had his own writing team, but then they left with him, so they had to bring back Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, who initially weren't going to do it because Danny Boyle had his own writers, but they were rehired, and then Phoebe Waller-Bridge came on board, and Scott Z. Burns came on board. So there's quite a number of writers for No Time to Die. So I just hope that the script has been taken care of very much. But on the subject of the production, I mean, I'm sure you remember, it was actually nearly a year ago, like last year in April, they had this really crappy live stream from Jamaica where they were filming near the house in which the GoldenEye estate, which is where Ian Fleming wrote the character of Bond. And they had this crappy live stream about No Time to Die. They hadn't revealed the title at that point, and it was literally just a reveal about the cast, which was a real disappointment. It was a 20-minute long thing. They got everybody hyped up, and then they didn't really deliver anything. And it was kind of pointless, really. I mean, then the cast were there and revealed, and they were asked questions about it, and not a lot of the cast could really answer them. And then the presenter went on this tangent about, why Jamaica was important to the series and how it featured in the Bond series, which we already knew, so that didn't really make a difference.
Yeah, that live stream was embarrassing. Like when
and also the sound was very, very badly handled. You couldn't hear Daniel Craig when he was answering the questions, which really annoyed me. So that was the time when I did get annoyed because I thought, hang on a minute, that's ridiculous. They've just shoved this out at the last minute, and they didn't give us a title as well. So there wasn't much to look forward to other than the cast, and half of which we already knew. So
not only that, but I found it really stupid after the live stream they revealed the plot. It's like, why couldn't you just reveal the plot in the fucking live stream?
Exactly.
I just found that whole live stream pointless. I remember you, me, and Louis did the live stream on that, and I fucking missed Endgame for that.
You should have gone and paid the money to go and watch Avengers Endgame. But I mean, it was terrible. I mean, also the fact that Barbara Broccoli was asked about the plot, and she said, "Oh, it starts out with Bond living in retirement. He's living a quiet life with Madeline, and then he is called back into action for one last film, and then." Like you say, they just announced the plot synopsis afterwards. It's like, well, did they just forget? What? It made no sense. And what also annoyed me was the fact that when they were asked about a title, they said, "Oh, I can't remember the last time we had a title before going into production." It's like, well, Michael, did you not make Skyfall? Did you not make Spectre? You
Yeah,
announced
I
the
mean,
title before you went into production. So, I'd rather you just be honest and say, we don't have a title at the moment. We're working it out, rather than say, oh, I don't remember the last time we had a title. What the hell? Don't lie about it.
no, no,
that,
no.
that,
No, what he said was, I think something along to the effect of, "We've never had a title, before we've gone into
yeah,
production," and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I remember
yeah,
watching that Spectre live stream with you, and they announced the name in that live stream. It's like, don't give me this rubbish that you never had a title before you went into production. That's
yeah.
just a load of rubbish. But yeah,
Yeah, just be honest and say you don't have a title. That's it. Just say, okay, we don't have a title. We're still figuring it out. I mean, allegedly, this was discovered after the live stream that apparently they were going to call the film A Reason to Die, but then they dropped that name before the live stream, which is why we didn't have a title. So yeah, so the whole live stream was a real disappointment, and then we waited for a little bit longer, and then I think a couple of months later we got this really random behind the scenes video from the Jamaica shoot, because that was one of the first places they shot. I mean, they shot in Norway back in March, but the first place they shot was Jamaica, of course, because that's where they were at the time. And Cary Fukunaga posted this 1 minute video. I mean, the music was a bit odd, but I mean, it was a nice eyegasm, so to speak. I mean, it showed some nice colors. There was some shots in a nightclub. Felix was there. Some moments with the car chase. It looked really visually quite nice, even if it was only a minute long. But so that was nice. That sort of impressed me a bit. I didn't expect that. I mean, it was just called On Set with Bond 25. So I mean, at the time there was no title. But then there was kind of a long time of nothing, wasn't there? After that period, after that video, they just they didn't announce anything until I think it was August when they announced the title, which was No Time to Die, and that was announced in a very short little video, and it was just leaked online, which was kind of amazing. I'm surprised. I thought they would do another live stream where they announced the title, but no. I mean, what were your reactions to the Jamaica video, just before we move on to talk about the title itself?
That Jamaica video I thought was really good. I mean, you really got a sense of the well, I mean, you really got a sense of the visual aspect to what the film was going to look like, and it was just a really nice teaser. I mean, it didn't really give anything away, but the scenes that we did see, I thought was really good, and I like the music that they used, and it is nice that they're going back to Jamaica for this film, because I mean, the last time I think we were in Jamaica was, correct me if I'm wrong, was it GoldenEye or Casino Royale or something like that?
I think
I'm
it
not
might
so
have
sure.
even been. It could have even been. I mean, Casino Royale went to the Bahamas. I don't know if that's anywhere near Jamaica, but I think Live and Let Die might have been the last time they went to Jamaica. I can't remember, but I think that might have been the one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I was happy with the title, No Time to Die as well. I thought, A Reason to Die was a really, I mean, if they were going to go for that title, I would have been pissed off, because I mean, it basically, it heavily implies that Bond could die in the film, and it sort of gives
Yes.
away, it kind of gives away, the spoiler in the film, if Bond is going to die, and yeah, I mean, I wasn't a fan of that title. And then there were these other rumors of titles going around, like they were thinking of Genoma of a Woman, like Daniel Craig
Yeah.
said he liked that title, and then Eclipse was another one. I mean, I think Genoma of a Woman would have been I think Genoma of a Woman would have been a terrible title for a Bond film. It just doesn't sound like a Bond movie.
James Bond. Yeah. I mean, even Eclipse, I think, would have been a bit of a poor choice, just because of the movie Twilight Eclipse. I think it would have constantly reminded people of that, which is not really anyone's fault. But I mean, Eclipse is not a bad title, but I don't think it sounds like a Bond film. And also, like we've had two one-worded titles in Skyfall and Spectre. And I guess they wanted to get away from that, which I think was nice. But yeah, Genoma of a Woman, I never liked that one. It was just a bit strange, to be honest. And A Reason to Die, I'm so worried because, like you said, it heavily implies what we all don't want to happen. But when they came with No Time to Die, I thought, wow, I actually like that. That's pretty damn good. And it implies the other thing. It gives me hope that they won't kill off Bond. I mean, I can't confirm that, of course, but it gives me hope that they won't kill off Bond because it is called No Time to Die, or maybe it references something else in the film. But it sounds very Bondian, and it does have some Bond connections. I can't remember exactly what they are, but there are some Ian Fleming connections with that title. But yeah, no, it's good, and I mean, at first I wasn't really impressed with the font, but I've grown to like it now. Actually, I think that it works. I thought at first it was a bit blocky, like, okay, this is a bit weird, but no, I like it. It's good. But yeah, the video was just like Craig walking into frame, and then it pulled back, and then the words all formed to make No Time to Die. So yeah. And then after that, there wasn't really much said. They were just filming. We just saw some images of filming. I mean, there were some people that had actually leaked footage online, like when they were filming in Italy. There was some videos that were leaked online, some of which are still there actually, which I'm amazed at. But then I think it was the December. It was the 4th of December. We got the trailer, which was amazing. We finally got the trailer to No Time to Die, and that trailer was fucking amazing. I love that trailer.
Oh no, I agree with you. I mean, we had waited so long for anything in No Time to Die, and then when that trailer finally dropped, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it was just, and it was everything I wanted out of a Bond trailer. Like, you got Bond, like saying, "Oh, we all have our secrets. We just haven't got to yours yet." And
yeah, that's the thing. It was intriguing. It was so intriguing. And sorry to interrupt. It set up a premise for the film, which I was amazed at. The fact that it gave us the hint that, oh, Madeline might have betrayed Bond. I mean, because obviously, if people don't know by this point, all the Daniel Craig films are linked together, and No Time to Die is a direct sequel to Spectre. And it takes place about, I think, 5 years after Spectre, literally. So it will be in real time. And I'd say the trailer opens with, "Why would I betray you? We all have our secrets. We just didn't get to yours yet." And from there, it's like, oh my god, like it really hooks you in. And I was blown away. I mean, I'll let you give your thoughts on the trailer, but that opening of the trailer was like, wow, I was hooked.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, the opening was just great, and then you got the Bond music, and you got that great stunt where we see Daniel Craig as Bond jumping off the bridge. And I mean, it was everything I wanted from a Bond trailer. It intrigued you with the whole Madeline thing, like maybe Madeline's betrayed Bond. The Aston Martin with the guns at the end was awesome. Ana de Armas. It was just such an awesome trailer. I mean, I watched that, and it gets the blood pumping, and that's what you want from a James Bond trailer. That's what you want. And, it just makes me more excited, for No Time to Die. I mean, time is dying. That's the thing. Like, time is slowly dying until we get to No Time to Die. But yeah.
Funny enough, also we got our first look at Safin, the villain, played by Rami Malek, who I must say was a great choice of casting. I mean, they were lucky to get Rami Malek because he just won an Oscar for Bohemian Rhapsody, and he's a fantastic actor. And I know they were eyeing him up for quite some time, and I think he's going to be fantastic. Given from what I could hear, his voiceover in the trailer is brilliant. I mean, the dialogue as well is brilliant when he gives that speech about Bond, and he says, "James Bond, licensed to kill, history of violence. Only your skills die with your body. Mine will live long after I'm gone." And then Bond replies with, "History isn't kind to men who play God." I mean, that was a great line. And it's just so intriguing. I mean, the film gives you something to talk about, but it doesn't give away the plot, which I'm amazed at. And we know that there is something going on with Madeline. She has a secret, which I think is kind of the setup for the story. And she has connections to Safin as well. But I mean, what was your overall reaction to well, from the trailer of what we saw of Safin?
No, I thought the stuff that we saw of Safin in the film was great. I really like, from what I saw, I haven't seen Rami Malek. Um, I haven't seen him in Bohemian Rhapsody, but I have faith that they'll do a really good job with him, and because in that trailer, he got a lot of good lines. James Bond, history of violence. On your
Yeah,
skills, die for your body. He was he was an intriguing character, and I mean, there's an interesting character. You know, uh, there's an interesting thing about his character. He's sort of got this deformed face, I guess. I mean, it looks like that.
yeah,
So,
and he wears like a white mask as well, which is really weird.
yeah, and I'm wondering, like, what's that about? Is it going to be, um, you know,
Because there's a moment where Madeline actually receives the mask in like a box, and she looks at it, and she's got tears trickling down her face. So, ooh, it's really intriguing. You're just dying to know the mystery of this film and what it's going to be about. And I think it's really good the way it's set up. And like you say, the stunts and the action are very impressive. We get a brief look at Ana de Armas in action. Apparently, she's playing a CIA agent called Paloma. So she's actually not going to sleep with him, or at least as far as the trailer's concerned. But she's definitely going to be the sexy Bond girl of the film. Well, other than Leia, they do, of course. But also, one thing we didn't talk about before the trailer was that it was announced that in controversial tabloids, shall we say, that Lashana Lynch, who's one of the cast members, is going to play a 00 agent, although her 00 agent is going to be the former 007 because Bond begins in No Time to Die in retirement. So she has replaced him while he's been away, but she's going to be a central part of the film as a 00 agent. And that caused a lot of controversy when it came out, when that was released. Even I was misled by the articles. The articles were claiming her to be Craig's replacement, which is total bullshit. But yeah, I mean, what was your sort of initial reaction, Jack, to hearing about Lashana Lynch in this film?
I was kind of a little bit concerned when they say she was going to be 007. And then in the trailer, like, the sort of stuff that she says, like, oh, I'm a 002, 2 years, so stay in your lane. And I was just kind of worried that, oh God, is she going to like overshadow Bond? Is she going to like, boss him around? I was also a little bit concerned when I found out that the term Bond girl was banned from set. I just kind of thought, oh God, are we going to go down the PC route here? Because I just, I really don't want that from a Bond movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still remain optimistic for Bond 25. I'm not going to judge it, but I just hope that they don't make Bond like. I mean, I know we have the Me Too era now and all this stuff, but I really don't think Bond. I really don't think Bond should go down the politically correct route. I mean, the character is a sexist. He is.
Just takes his dinosaur.
Yeah, it's in his nature, and I just think to make Bond like more PC and I don't know about that. I really don't know about that.
Well, I mean, it's funny because Phoebe Waller-Bridge said the same thing. She's a woman, and she said, changing Bond into a woman is ridiculous. I mean, the one thing that needs to change is the women, not Bond. Bond as a character has to stay as he is, but changing the women around is the way to go forward. And I think she's right. And I think that's, judging by what we see from the female characters in this film, from the trailer, it looks like that's what it's going to be. I mean, in terms of Lashana Lynch, she has said in an interview that her character Nomi, which is her name, Nomi, she's going to sort of be slightly intimidated by Bond because he's got experience and she's a fairly new to the game. But she describes Nomi as sort of a teacher's pet, like she does things by the book. And although it was described that Nomi would not, fall for Bond's charms, shall we say, I think Bond tries
Yeah.
it on because they go into that bedroom and then she's obviously reveals that she's a 00 agent and stuff. So I think there's going to be some interesting banter between them, because I think they're going to be working together for most of the film, which would be interesting because there's been other TV spots and stuff that have been released since the trailer, and we've seen the two of them in that little jet plane. When he says, "Have you ever one of these before?" She says, "Nope," which is interesting. But I mean, again, we're only judging from what we've seen, so it might be completely different in the movie. But I think it will be fun. I think it'll be fine. I don't think she will take over from Daniel Craig. I don't think, I wouldn't go that far. I don't think Phoebe Waller-Bridge would do that. I think they've just written her as a strong, sort of more action-based female character in this film as like a one-off. I mean, the feminists were all saying, "Oh, make Bond a woman, make Bond a woman," but it's not going to happen. I mean, I mean, we can go on a tangent about that, but making Bond a woman is just not. It's not the right thing to do. It doesn't honor what Fleming wrote. I'm sorry, I just don't.
And I'm going to be controversial here as well, but I just can't really see a black man playing Bond either. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of black actors out there that I really admire. Like, I do admire Idris Elba and Samuel Jackson, and there's a lot of great black actors out there and a lot of great black action heroes, and I just think it should stay that way. I think Bond, the character in the book, he's written as a white secret agent, and I don't think a black man and I don't think a woman should play Bond. I mean, that's just my personal opinion anyway. I'm not sexist or racist or anything. I don't have a problem with women having good action roles, like it's or black guys getting good action roles or whatever. But I think the character of Bond should stay as the white secret agent. I mean, I don't think there's any problem with that. I don't think
I mean,
inherently wrong.
Are you happy with the decision that No Time to Die is making by changing the women and not making them sexual objects and making them three-dimensional characters, a couple of which are more action-based, but also, the fact is we've had black characters in the films over the years, particularly in Live and Let Die, and we've had strong female characters. But are you happy with the changes that No Time to Die is making?
I don't have a problem with them having more three-dimensional female characters. I think that's a good thing. But the only thing I am a little bit concerned about is if they're trying to soften Bond as a character, like make him less sexist. I mean, the thing about Spectre was, and you kind of pointed it out, and I kind of agree with you, I really love Spectre, but I didn't really see a love story between Bond and Madeline. And in that film, he got married. And in this film, obviously Madeline's betrayed him, which is, which is fair enough. I mean, I don't mind Bond being married, but I just hope they don't go down this route of, in the Bond films, instead of him just, having sex with a few of the ladies, like he has girlfriends for the entire film, or he I mean, I just think it would be a little bit stupid if Bond, committed himself to all the ladies in the next Bond films. Like, I think the character of Bond, the point is he's a secret agent on a mission, and he doesn't have time to settle down. He doesn't have time to have committed relationships. I just hope they don't, do this thing. I just hope they don't do this thing in the next Bond films where he has a girlfriend for the entire movie. I just don't think that would work, honestly. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we can safely say that Madeline is not going to die in the opening sequence, which we all thought was going to happen. But I still think that there is a chance she could die. I think she could die at the end of the film, depending on how the story works out and how it resolves or whatever. But Léa Seydoux will be prominent in the film. I mean, because it looks like time has passed when he sees her again, because they're about to interrogate Blofeld, and it looks like she's somehow working with MI6. I mean, a bit weird, but it'd be interesting. But I'm also excited to see the MI6 regulars again, seeing Moneypenny, Q, and M again, who were brilliantly established in Skyfall, and also continued to do a lot in Spectre. So I'm glad to see them do a third film. And it would be a shame if Ben Whishaw finished with this film. I mean, there's a rumor that he said he might be done with No Time to Die. You know, that might be his last one. But that would be a real shame because I think he's really reinvented the character of Q. And I would love him to go on and do more films with a new actor. And I think, well, hopefully Naomi Harris and Ray Fiennes can stay in the series. I mean, obviously they're going to have to reboot the franchise from a certain point of view with the new actor, but that doesn't mean they can't keep actors. I mean, they kept Judi Dench after Die Another Day, so you know, keeping the MI6 regulars doesn't really affect the timeline as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree with you. And I have no problem with that, like keeping the MI6 regulars, and I actually want them to keep the MI6 regulars. But the question is, do those actors want to stay in the role? Because, like you said, Ben Whishaw said he might be done with the role. I really don't think that he should leave with this film. I mean, I've only really just started to really get into his character. I mean, I thought he was great in Skyfall, and he was great in Spectre, and I just, I'm really starting to like his Q. I think after Desmond Llewellyn, he's really, he's definitely the best actor to portray Q, and I really like his take on the character, and I would like to see him in more films. I mean, one thing I will say about the new Bond films is what I liked about the old Bond films, like with Sean Connery, Roger Moore, and Lazenby and Brosnan. They kept the MI6 regulars even when there was a new Bond.
Yeah.
Like Roger Moore, they kept Lois Maxwell, they kept Bernard Lee. Same with George Lazenby.
With Brosnan, they changed them a little bit. I mean, when they changed M into a woman, I'm sure that caused a bit of controversy, but it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, Judi Dench did a great job, but we'll talk about the overall series in a bit. But I definitely agree with your point. But let's hope. I mean, with No Time to Die, obviously the MI6 regulars. Let's hope they get a fair amount to do. I mean, they might do. I mean, there's a scene when Moneypenny and Bond go and visit Q in his flat, and I wonder if we're going to see Q's cats. I mean, that'll just be a nice fan service moment for me personally.
Yeah. Well, you better. Well, you better do it for the sake of the cats.
I guess the only other thing to talk about, unless you want to go on about the trailer, we can get to this in a minute if you want to carry on. But we'll next talk about the Billie Eilish song, which we have already.
Oh, what do I think of it?
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to continue talking about the trailer.
Yeah, we can move on to that. No, I really like the song "No Time to Die." I mean, I was really initially hesitant about it because it's Billie Eilish, and I'm not really a fan of her songs. Like, she's done songs like "Bad Guy" and things like that, and I wasn't a fan. And like, when they said, "Oh, she's going to be the person to write the next Bond song and sing it," I just thought, oh god, because I mean, she's the youngest artist ever to do a Bond song. She's only like 18. And I thought, oh god, this is going to be bad. But then when the song came out, I was actually really surprised. I mean, it's not one of the best Bond songs ever. I mean, it's not as good as Skyfall or Goldfinger or something like that. But it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And I think it's definitely better than the previous song, Writings on the Wall by Sam Smith. I mean, I really like the lyrics, and Billie Eilish's voice is actually quite good. And what I like is she just didn't go for her sort of regular way she does songs. It sounds like a Bond song. It sounds like, she was attempting to do an actual Bond song, and I think it works for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, from what I can get from it, I mean, it's a lovely song. I think it's a great song. It surprised me. It's very deep and it's very emotional. It's quite haunting, actually. The lyrics speak to the story. Like the "fool me once, fool me twice, are you death or paradise? You'll never see me cry, there's just no time to die." it's obviously Bond getting over Madeline's betrayal, which is really interesting, and it is a bit slow and it is a bit somber, but it's nice to have that sometimes, and it gets a bit big and sort of bombastic towards the end when she goes for the high notes. But I think it's a song that's actually out of her comfort zone. Billie Eilish really
Yeah.
sort of challenged herself with it, which I'm really impressed with because, like you said, her palette of music is not. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it doesn't appeal to me. I'm not a Billie Eilish fan until I listen to No Time to Die, but I'm still not crazy about her other music. I mean, great, good on her for winning all those Grammys and whatnot, but she just never appealed to me. But I guess she's a current artist and she's very young. She's 18, which is incredibly young. She's younger than us, which really makes us look like snappy old geezers. But there you go.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but no, I'm very impressed with it, and I the more I listen to it, the more I really like it. But I do agree, it's not the best Bond song ever, and it's certainly not going to live up to Skyfall by Adele. That was just
Yeah.
mesmerizing. But I do think it's really good. It's really really good, and I can't wait to see the title sequence that accompanies it. Although we have to wait for November now, but still, hope springs eternal. And just to very quickly address Writings on the Wall, which Lauren has questioned about. Personally, Lauren, I don't think Writings on the Wall is that bad. A lot of people don't like it. I think it's because Sam Smith sings it in a very falsetto tone of voice. Like he really goes high with some of those notes. Yeah, it's a bit over the top. I think also to come after Adele's Skyfall, which was an amazing song. It wasn't the best, but I actually love the orchestration of Writings on the Wall. Sorry, I should say, but yeah, no, I mean it's not the best Bond song, but I thought it was pretty good. But other people seem to hate it, so that's a real shame.
One thing I was gonna say though, since we've got some people in the live chat, like maybe we could answer some questions. Like if anybody has any questions about No Time to Die or Bond or whatever, like we could do that. I don't know, but
yeah, of course. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore the guys in the chat. Hello, everyone. I did just answer a question from Lauren, but if anyone else has any questions, then as we go along, we can comment and reply to them when we can. So, Sam, Lauren, Harry, whoever else is watching or listening, feel free to put some questions. We will answer them. They can be about anything Bond related or whatever. So yeah, feel free. So yeah, it's just a shame that the Billie Eilish song is going to be sitting there for months and months without a title sequence, at least from what we can see. I mean, they've edited the film, but we're not going to see it till November, which is a real shame. But oh god, I mean, it did actually reach #1, I think, in the UK, as far as I'm aware, when it came out, which was in a month ago, I think.
Well,
February. It came out
that is interesting, and like you said, it is kind of, I kind of find it weird that, I mean, this coronavirus has messed everything up essentially, but I kind of find it weird that basically we've got almost everything that we can from this film, and we're still going to have to wait months for it, because I mean, you think about it, we've had all the posters, we've had all the trailers, and we've got the song already. So it is going to be weird having to wait months and months until the film comes out, and there's going to be no title sequence with the song. Just going to have to listen to the song and wait till the title sequence, works with it. But I mean, speaking about Writings on the Wall, I really hated that song when I first heard it on the radio. But when I watched it with the title sequence, it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, yes, it's definitely not one of the best Bond songs by any stretch of the imagination, but it actually surprisingly worked with the title sequence. Harry thinks Writings on the Wall is great, but yeah, no, but I mean, it is going to be weird not having a song yet.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when that song dropped, and I was very surprised with how it started out. And I think it's going to fit the film very well. I think it really will. Hans Zimmer raved about it. I remember because he's doing the soundtrack for No Time to Die, which is interesting because initially there was a guy called Dan Romo who was going to do it, but then he was dropped apparently due to creative differences. Lol, always the story. But Hans Zimmer, who's obviously one of the most famous film composers, he's never done a Bond score, so I suppose that's why they sort of chosen to do it. Because I mean, Thomas Newman works very closely with Sam Mendes because he scored 1917 and he did Skyfall and Spectre, and he was accused of rehashing Skyfall's score within Spectre. So I'm not surprised that they've chosen a different composer for No Time to Die. But I'm confident Hans Zimmer will deliver. I mean, he's a very talented composer. He's very good. So I just hope that he's able to keep some of those classic Bond themes, but also create something new. And by the sounds of it, quite moving. From what people keep describing about this film, it seems to be quite emotional.
Yeah. One thing I will say about Hans Zimmer, I do think he's a really good composer. But one thing I will say is, one thing that I hate about his soundtracks is that he overuses that horn or whatever it is. Like he does that a lot in the soundtracks, and I just hope Spectre isn't full of stuff. Sorry, not Spectre. No Time to Die. I hope No Time to Die. The soundtrack isn't full of those horns going because I mean it's just every time you watch a Hans Zimmer film, it does get a little bit repetitive after a while when when you got those horns going at full blast. But
yeah. I mean, Interstellar was one of his weakest scores for me. It was just like everything was like that. It was the same sort of chords in every scene, and it was. I mean, it was atmospheric for the first 2 minutes, but after a while, it's kind of repetitive and dull. I mean, also, Man of Steel was not a score that I'm particularly fond of, but then again, I'm not really fond of the movie, so yeah. But hopefully, we'll include some instrumental parts of the song as well, which previous Bond films have done with their respective songs.
Yeah. I mean, Harry says that No Time to Die is the best ever. It made me cry. It's that powerful. It is a great song, but I wouldn't say it's the best Bond song ever. For me, there are better ones out there, like Nobody Does It Better and Skyfall and Goldfinger and Diamonds Are Forever and stuff like that.
I would still take You Know My Name over No Time to Die. But then again, it's hard to judge No Time to Die without a title sequence. But I think it will fit the film because it sounds very emotional, and Eilish's vocal is surprisingly good. So that says a lot for someone who's that young, and she wrote it with her brother as well. They both apparently read the script and came up with the song from there. So yeah, good on them. Good on them.
A Billie Eilish, I guess you could call her.
Yeah. But I mean, since then we kind of didn't have a lot. We had some more posters. That poster of Bond and Madeline behind the cracked glass of the car, and then the blue logo, No Time to Die, which was a much different color scheme to the previous ones, where all the character posters were in front of the sort of gold sand-like background, whereas the previous films, like Skyfall, was just like a white background, which was quite plain, and then Spectre had like a green background, which was surprising. So the designs of the posters are becoming very plain as far as I'm concerned. But the main poster is obviously Craig in his sort of I don't know how to describe it. His fight outfit. That sounds really bad, but he's wearing the blue jumper and he's in front of the sand. Whereas with Spectre, the poster was slightly more visually interesting because it was him in the white tux with Madeline.
One thing I will
with the Craig era. I mean, sorry to interrupt. The Craig era, the best posters for me came from Casino Royale. I think, and after that, all the posters for the next 4 movies have all been very plain as far as I'm concerned. But they're not awful, but they're just a bit bland. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. One thing I really am kind of disappointed with, for the most part, the Craig era posters haven't been that great. They're just, like you said, very bland. I mean, I was looking at the posters the other day for like the old Bond films. Like, I love the poster for like The Man with the Golden Gun and Live and Let Die. and stuff like that. It's very visually interesting. There's a lot going on in those posters, and I was looking at the posters for like Casino Royale and Quantum and Spectre and Skyfall, and while they're not bad posters, there's just not much visually going on
Yeah.
there. I mean, it's just a real shame because even the Brosnan era had some pretty good posters. Like the GoldenEye poster is pretty good, and the World's Not Enough poster is pretty good, and same with
Yeah.
the Tomorrow Never Dies one. I don't know what it is, but like the Spectre one, I mean, I did like that poster, but they're just very basic. Bond standing there with his gun and Madeline beside him, and that was
In
kind
front
of
of a
really
green
it.
background. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of really it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Skyfall, despite it being one of the best films of the series, has some of the worst posters, which is a shame because it's a white background. That's it. It's a white background. The main poster was Craig on the floor with a gun, and then
Yeah.
the logo on top, Skyfall, which was a bit strange. I mean, there are some variations. There's one with him. The IMDb poster has him standing in front of the gun barrel, which is slightly better, but still, it is very plain. I don't know why the Craig movies haven't gone further out with their posters. I mean, Casino Royale has some pretty good posters, and even then, they're not the best, but
Yeah.
which is a shame. But I think No Time to Die, they did make one poster, which was in a white background, and they had all the characters there. I mean, it was a slightly better effort, but even so, it's not as cool as that. Some of the fan-made ones are really good. There's some really good fan-made posters, like in the Bond group on Facebook, the Bond fans only. They've made
Yeah. Hello? What the hell just happened? Hello?
hello. Sorry about that, Jack. I accidentally left. Sorry about that. I accidentally left the live stream by mistake. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was wondering what the hell was going on. I thought my connection died or something. I'm like, where the hell's Ollie?
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Just to quickly,
I think maybe Safin tried to stop you talking there.
oh god, your Wi-Fi dies with your body. But anyway, yeah, the main poster for No Time to Die, yeah, the white poster with all the characters on it. It's a good effort. I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it a bit more vibrant, but it's still not great. I mean, I think the worst poster was probably the very first one, which was Craig in front of that blue wall and just the logo and then the date. It was like, oh, that's it. Oh,
Yeah.
right, okay. Yeah, I wasn't really particularly impressed with that. I mean, sorry, I won't go on anymore. I'll let you have your say. But what do you think of all like the posters?
Well, no, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I mean, I think the for your for Bond fans only, that Facebook group, they did much better posters. Like they did a version of the No Time to Die poster in the style of Octopussy with like Madeline and Lashana Lynch's character. Like they did it in the style of the Octopussy poster, and I thought, yeah, wow, that's actually pretty good. And yeah, that's the thing about the Craig posters. They just been, I mean, Skyfall, like you're right. I mean, I love Skyfall, but my God, the posters for that were terrible. I mean, like you said, one of them was just, it was essentially just Craig on the floor with a gun in front of the 007 logo, which was in front of a white background. And then the one on the DVD cover and the other poster was just Craig standing in front of the 007 logo in his tux. And the No Time to Die posters, I mean, they're not the worst thing I've ever seen, but they're just kind of bland. I mean, Craig in the with the jumper and all, I mean, it kind of looks cool, but like I said, I mean, I really like the old Bond posters, like the Sean Connery, posters for like Thunderball and You Only Live
Yeah.
Twice, and the Roger Moore posters like Live and Let Die, Spy Love Me, Man with the Golden Gun. I mean, they're very visually interesting. There's a lot going on there, and they're hand drawn, and they look awesome. Like the Craig ones, I don't know. It's just like they couldn't be arsed with the Craig ones, if you know what I mean. Like minimal
Yeah,
effort, but yeah,
that's it. They're just a bit too basic. That's the problem. They don't they don't have the class or the glamour of those old posters. And I'm not saying they had to hand draw the posters, but they could have at least tried to add a bit more to them. Like, I mean, there are various posters for Casino Royale. I mean, the main one obviously is Craig standing in front of the casino, and on some of the posters, Vesper is there as well. I mean, and then the car. Even then, that's there's a little bit more going on, but it's still quite basic because it's just there's a silver background, so it's not
yeah,
it's not as striking as some of the old posters. But it would have been interesting if they did actually like start drawing the old posters. That would have been good. Obviously, that's an old style that they don't do anymore. But even if they just went to the length of some of the Brosnan posters, I mean, you
yeah,
can't deny the Brosnan posters are actually quite good. I mean, even though
yeah,
I hate that today, the poster is actually decent. I'll give it.
yeah,
I'll give it one positive. The poster is decent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the thing. And the poster for uh, World's Not Enough is very good. I like the poster for Goldeneye. That's great. Tomorrow Never
Yeah,
Dies. And that's the thing. Like you were saying, like they don't really do it anymore. But that's one thing that I love. I love to look at the old Bond posters, like the Doctor No poster. That's hand drawn. You got the poster for uh,
it's funny you mentioned that. Sorry to interrupt. Someone actually did the Doctor No poster in the style of No Time to Die, which was really interesting. I don't know if it's on the Bond group anymore, but I think that's where I saw it, and it was actually quite good.
yeah. No, that's one thing I really love about those old Bond posters. Like, you look at the Live and Let Die poster, the You Only Live Twice poster, the Man with the Golden Gun poster, Spy Love Me. They're all hand drawn, and there's a lot going on in there visually that tells you stuff about the film. And they're great
Yeah,
posters. And I wish they would do that with the Daniel Craig Bond films, or at least like you were saying, go for something like Brosnan, where you would have photos of the actors in the poster, but there's like a lot going on in there. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
mean,
just with the
the only
Craig
Craig poster.
era. Yeah,
Yeah,
with,
sorry to interrupt. The only Craig poster which I think is great is the Casino Royale one, which I've got a massive poster of all the mini posters of the films so far, which I got at the Bond in Motion tour. The Casino Royale one um, has like various stills from the film. There's one of Bond and Vesper in the sea. Craig is on the left hand side of the poster. There's the bits of the car. There's a shot of the casino itself, and there's another shot. Which I mean, even then, and it's like in the shape of the gun barrel. So even then, that looks a bit better designed. But I mean, I think after Casino Royale, it just seemed to get very lazy. I mean, with Quantum of Solace, the main poster is Bond and Camille in the desert, and that's it. You wouldn't think it was
yeah,
James Bond unless you saw the logo with the
yeah.
007 in it. But
Although
yeah,
I will say that there is one pretty awesome Quantum poster, and that's one of Daniel Craig holding the big arse machine gun. That was a pretty cool image, I will say, from Quantum
yeah,
of
that was
Solace.
good.
Yeah, yeah,
But it didn't strike me as being a poster really. I mean, it's a great image, but for
yeah,
the like promotional image, but as a poster, I mean, they have it on the front of the game cover as well. It's not a bad. It's not bad, but it doesn't exactly get you excited. I mean, I suppose it does, but it's just visually, it's not. It's very bland. I mean, other than the Craig era, the only other posters that I'm disappointed with, I suppose, are License to Kill. But even then, they've got
yeah.
slightly more going on.
Well, the reason why the License to Kill posters weren't very good was because they sort of rushed out uh, License to Kill. They were trying to rush it out for release in the cinema, so they didn't have really enough time to do the posters right. But yeah, that is one thing I will say. Like, I really like the old artwork of like the Sean Connery and Roger Moore posters. The hand drawn stuff. Like even the Living Daylights poster. I mean, wow, that is a really great poster. That's one of my favorite Bond posters. Like Dalton, looking into the gun barrel and you got Marion Dabo with the sniper there, and you got all the Mujahideen in the background. That's like one of my favorite posters of the series. But yeah,
Yes. I mean, as we're sort of segueing onto the other films now, I think we'll just quickly mention about, I guess, No Time to Die. We've kind of said everything we have to say. I mean, I've certainly said everything. The delay sucks. It certainly does. We have a new person, Spider-Bot. Hello. We've kind of said everything we want to say about No Time to Die. I certainly have. I think we can move on to just the general discussion about the rest of the series. So if anyone has any questions about No Time to Die that you want us to answer, then just please leave them in the comments below and we'll answer them as we go. But I'm quite to move on now.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Harry and Lauren and Spider-Bart and Sam Harrison, if he's watching, just feel free to ask us any questions and we'll try and answer them the best we can.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think the first thing to say is Sam has actually left a question for us. Well, he addressed it to me, but I think for both of us, we can answer it. In no particular order, we're just going to sort of go through the Bond series and give a general sort of discussion on it. So I guess we can start by answering Sam's question. So, Jack, how would you rank the Roger Moore Bond villains? And bearing in mind, there's quite a lot of them.
Oh, bloody hell. Well, I'll rank the main villains. I won't be ranking the henchmen.
Yeah.
How many are there? 7 villains, I think.
Yeah. So if we go by the films, so you're ranking in the movies, you're ranking in the movies. Just look at each villain and then go, and then go from there. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay. Well, at number 7 would be Christatos. Just because I just don't think. I mean, I like Julian Glover a lot, but I just don't think really his villain. Yeah, his villain doesn't really get anything to do. Then afterwards, I probably have to say maybe Stromberg. Because I like Kurt Jurgens. He gives a good performance to Stromberg, but Stromberg just doesn't really get anything to do. He just kind of sits behind his desk and presses a few buttons. Then, what's that? 7, 6. Then number 5 would be. I have to think about that one. Oh God.
Lauren?
Well, hold on. There's Kananga. There's Scaramanga. Yeah. There's Hugo Drax. There's Kamal Khan. Yeah. I think maybe I would have to go for Kamal Khan after that because I mean I like Louis Jourdan, but I just think that Kamal Khan isn't the best villain, but he does have some great lines. I do think he's a good villain, but he's just not one of my favorites. Then number 4 would be Hugo Drax. I think Michael Lonsdale's great as Hugo Drax, and he's got some really great lines, and I like his stuff with Roger Moore. Then number 3 would be Max Sorin. I think Christopher Walken is great as Max Sorin. I love the fight that he has with Bond on the Golden Gate Bridge, and what I like about his villain is he's completely nuts, like psycho. Which is I haven't really seen that before in a Bond film or a Bond villain. And number 2 would be Christopher Lee as Scaramanga, because I think Scaramanga is just one of the very best Bond villains, and I love his rapport with Roger Moore. They work very well together. And then number 1 for me would be Kananga, just because I think Kananga is a great villain, and I really think he works well with Roger Moore, and I love all the villains in Live and Let Die, and that's probably my favorite Bond film. So that's why I would rank the villains.
Enough, you say Kananga, but I suppose you say Kananga / Mr. Big.
Yeah, names is for tombstones, baby.
As for me, this is going to be take a few minutes, so bear with me, Sam. At the bottom is definitely Christatos. I really don't like him as a villain. He just doesn't do anything. He's a real disappointment.
Yeah,
Then it would
yeah,
probably have to be. Oh, God, this is quite difficult. Stromberg. Stromberg would be the next one. Then it would probably have to be Kamar Khan, although I do actually like him. Then it
yeah.
would be Zorin, and then it would be Drax, and then it would be Kananga, and then I put Scaramanga at number one. But I like most of the villains in Roger Moore's era. It's just really Stromberg and Christatos that I'm not really a fan of.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. They're the only two I don't really care for. The other five, I think, are pretty good.
mm.
But,
Oh, and
yeah.
Harry's asked the question: how would you rank the Daniel Craig Bond girls? Okay, well, we're not going to include the characters from No Time to Die yet because we haven't seen it. So, out of the first four Daniel Craig films, Jack, how would you rank the Bond girls? And there's not many of them actually, which is surprising. I mean, and
Oh.
also Judi Dench's M doesn't count.
Yeah.
The Spiral Rifle will make you think.
Well, at the bottom, I don't want to put her down here because I really like her, but at the bottom, I'd have to put Severine because she's just not really in the film that much. I think she's a good character, but I just kind of wish she was in the film more. The number
Yeah.
3 would probably be Camille. I think Camille's a really good Bond girl.
Yeah.
And I really like her backstory, and I think Olga Kurylenko gives a very good performance. Number 2 would probably be Leia Seydoux as Madeline Swan. I think
Yeah.
Madeline is a great Bond girl.
We've
And,
yet to see
yeah,
more of her.
yeah. And yeah, number 1 would probably have to be Vesper Lind from Casino Royale. I mean, Eva
Yeah.
Green gave a really great performance, and
Also,
yeah, I think that's how I'd rank them.
Solange, the Dimitros's wife, you didn't mention her. I mean, I know she's not in.
Right. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I suppose she counts as a Bond girl. I probably put her at number 5, because she's hardly in the film. She's just sort of, that there's that one scene between Bond and Solange, but yeah, that's really it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Oh, I
I mean,
suppose we have to count Fields as well. I forgot
Field,
to count.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how can we-
I probably put Fields. I probably put her at. I don't know. Actually, I probably put her at number 6. I mean, I like Gemma Arterton, but kind of wish Fields got a bit more to do. But yeah, that's how I'd rank them anyway. But
yeah. As for me,
oh,
it
and
would
Monica
probably be-
Bellucci as well. Oh, I forgot her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We keep forgetting half of them. Monica Bellucci,
Yeah.
Lucia Sonora.
She's probably at the bottom for me because she's only really in one scene. But yeah, I mean that's how I'd rank them anyway. So
Yeah.
it'd be Monica Bellucci, then Fields, then Solange, then who's the one after? Oh god,
Severine.
and then it'd be Camille, then Madeline Swan, and then Vesper Lind at the top. So yeah, that's how I'd rank them. Yeah.
As for me, it'd be something very similar. Although I would actually put Fields at the bottom, simply because of the way she's dispatched her was a very disrespectful person. It's just too obvious to reference to Goldfinger. I would then put Monica Bellucci as Lucia. I think just because she had a bit more character than Fields, even though she wasn't in it very much. You got the sense that she was a very, very scared woman. She was fearing for her life. I mean, that moment when she gets out the whiskey and puts the music on, she's going to her death. That was a very powerful moment, actually. So I would put her next. So yeah, I put Fields, then Lucia, then probably Solange, because she's just there as a sexy, Bond girl without a lot of character. But I mean, she's great to look at, so I'm not going to complain. But then I would say Severine probably, although she's not in Skyfall very much. She does get taken out very quickly. Then it would have to be Camille from Quantum of Solace. then it would be Madeline, and then it would be Vesper from Casino Royale. So yeah, that I would have a very similar list. Just the bottom half is a little bit different. But yeah, that's actually quite a hard list to rank. To be fair, I mean, please don't ask us to rank the Roger Moore Bond girls. Please do not ask us.
Oh
because
God, yeah.
it's gonna take fucking hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, Sam Harrison asked me to rank the Roger Moore Bond girls the other day, and I did do a ranking of all of them. And there's like 12 Bond girls, but I did do a ranking on my video. But yeah, bloody hell.
Yeah, I mean, that would be very difficult. I mean, I think apparently Roger Moore kissed like 20 women in his time as Bond. I mean, I can rank the George Lazenby Bond girls, no problem, but not the Roger Moore one. I mean,
Yeah,
fuck.
I mean, it'll be tough to rank the George Lazenby films. I mean, that'll be really tough.
My brain is already frying from that. I just can't decide.
Oh God. No, I mean, yeah, that's the thing about Roger Moore. I mean, he was very smooth with the ladies, you know.
I think actually that's the point. While we're on the subject of Bond girls, let's talk about the Bond girls, because over the years, the treatment of the Bond girls has changed. I mean, in the Sean Connery era, they were treated pretty badly. I mean, and again, it wasn't really Connery's fault; it was just the product of the time. And we've both said this: if the Connery movies had come out today, they'd be panned because of the way Connery's always treating them. He's forcing himself on them, and he's slapping their asses, and it's very controversial. But
yeah, I mean that was the '60s. It was very, I mean, women were sort of, well, I mean, there was a lot more sexism, let's say, back in the '60s.
Yeah.
I mean, times
were less
politically.
Actually, with Lazenby, with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where they started to really change that. Even though Lazenby still slept with 3 women in the clinic, but he wasn't slapping them around. He actually he treated them quite nicely, actually, which was surprising. But yeah, the first 5 movies were definitely very harsh towards the women. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, I guess you know, I guess it was prominent really in like I think films like Goldfinger and Thunderball. Thunderball, you know, when Connery forces himself on Molly Peters, rest in peace, which is a little bit controversial.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. Watching Thunderball, I mean, I mean that's the thing about the Connery era when it comes to the treatment of women is that that scene in Thunderball is a little bit. I mean, I think if that happened now, I think, you know, Bond would have been accused of being let's just say, of being a sexual pervert or whatever, because I mean he does sort of force himself onto Molly Peters' character, and that, like, he starts kissing her and all that, and she says stop it, and yeah, I mean, I did see someone recently say on YouTube, like, you know, they found Connery, his Bond, a bit creepy, like, you know, no means no, and yeah, Connery's Bond doesn't really take no for an answer. Like, especially in Thunderball, he just keeps harassing her character until she finally is finally seduced by him. But yeah,
yeah, that's the thing. It is very awkward now because they were very sexist times. I mean, in the world that we live in today, you know, those films would never be accepted. But I mean, it's hard to not blame Connery because I mean,
yeah,
he
acted.
Of course,
it's not Sean Connery's fault. It's
it's not his fault. He's taking direction. You know, he's being told to do that, and I mean, I can understand how it would be uncomfortable for certain people. I mean, you know, I mean, they're all beautiful women, but obviously they all have the moments where, I mean, not even just the whole sexist thing, but the fact that like some of them just get killed out of nowhere. Like Tilly Masterson dies quite tragically when she gets hit with the bowler hat. Aki dies in You Only Live Twice by poison. So they do kill off some of the women, and it's I mean, I guess less of that, but more the fact of Connery slapping him around. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that.
No, do you remember in Goldfinger, Man Talk?
Yeah, that's the most controversial moment. But yeah, I mean, I can't deny though. I mean, some of the Bond girl names over the years have been quite funny, but like Pussy Galore, obviously. But I think with Lazenby's film, that's when it started to change a little bit because they made Bond and Tracy fall in love, and even though he did sleep with 3 other women in the film, he didn't approach it with too much aggression. They tried to get away from what Connery did in that respect, and it was just like Bond was just sleazing around, which was fair enough. And then with Roger Moore, that kind of continued. Would you say just over his 7 movies, he just slept with women? He never really fell in love, or he never really forced himself on any women.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the Roger Moore era was, I think there were definitely. I mean, what's interesting about the character of Bond is that when he sort of starts off in Doctor No, he's a bit of an unlikable. He's a bit unlikable, to be honest. I mean, like there's that scene where he says to Quarrel, "Oh, fetch my shoes," and in the book, Bond was a racist. So I mean, that's the only real time you see Bond being a racist. And when Bond starts off in Doctor No, he's pretty cold. I mean, there's that scene where he shoots Professor Dent in the back. Or it's just Smith and Wesson, and you had your 6. And the thing with the Bond girls as well is like, when it came to Roger Moore, I think they were trying to soften the image a bit of Bond, like make him more likable. They were trying to make Bond more likable, I think. And, Roger Moore, he doesn't really slap their arses or beat them up. I mean, he does beat up Andrea Anders a bit in The Man with the Golden Gun. But, his Bond is a lot, I would say, he doesn't really force himself on the women, if you know what I mean. His Bond is a lot more
Charming,
charming. He kind of laughs them into bed instead of sort of macho them into bed like Connery did. And like
he charmed his way there. I mean, he likes to sort of have a drink with them and then sort of get them in that way, which I think is interesting. I mean, they were deliberately intent on doing something different to Sean Connery. And I think, obviously, I can't remember at what point this happened in history, but the whole suffragette thing. I don't know if that was influenced in the 70s, but clearly the Bond series was evolving, and they thought, well, we can't just play this the way Sean did it. We have to evolve the series. So Roger's Bond is not going to be so forceful. I mean, The Man with the Golden Gun, that's a very interesting thing because they wanted to toughen up Roger's Bond, but they couldn't approach it like in the same way that Connery has done. But at the same time, I can understand why certain people could feel uneasy with that moment because of Andrea's character. But I think Roger Moore tried his best with that moment, and he did it rather well. But some people are going to find it uncomfortable.
No, yeah, I agree with you. And I think that. Oh, sorry. I think that his Bond. I think it was his Bond. We tried to soften the image of Bond a little bit. Because I mean, the thing was as well, it was the 70s, and you had second wave feminism, and I mean, someone pointed it out, and he made a good observation. There's this documentary on YouTube about Roger Moore called, the James Bond Ladies Man, and one woman said, Sean Connery, and one woman was talking about Roger Moore, and she said with Sean Connery, he was sort of the bad boy womanizer, but with Roger Moore's Bond, you think maybe he could marry the heroine if the circumstances were right. And I think that's sort of the crucial difference with their Bonds is, Connery's Bond's a lot more like macho kind of, womanizer. Roger Moore's a lot more like charming, like,
he's nice. Yeah. I mean, that's not to dismay Connery's portrayal, but yeah, you're right. And actually, the moment where that is most highlighted, I think, is when it is in Octopussy, when he says to Octopussy, he says, "We are two of a kind," and he charms his way with her, which I think is interesting. But yeah, no, you're right about that, and I think that was a really nice change that they had. That Roger Moore, I mean, also by that point, when he got to Octopussy, he was getting older, so I guess they were implying that if Bond actually did want to settle down with this woman, he could, and that's a really interesting thing for me. I don't know where Jack is, but I'll just.
I'm here. I'm here. I was just.
Yeah.
I just muted myself so you could talk. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
Yes, and I guess we should talk about Dalton when it comes to the Bond girls, because what's interesting
Yes.
about his Bond is that was during the whole AIDS scare thing, and so his Bond doesn't really bed any of the women, which I kind of think, for me, it works in The Living Daylights.
Not that we see, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, but I think with Dalton's Bond, his Bond sort of comes across as, and what I like about The Living Daylights is that it kind of comes across more like, well, I mean, it's not a love story, but for Kara, it's sort of, she's sort of falling in love with Bond, and we see that Bond, he does have some affection for her, and I kind of like the fact that Dalton's Bond isn't going around like Connery or Moore, because, yeah, I think it worked better for his Bond, because I like the stuff in The Living Daylights where he's with Kara, and we see that Kara does have some genuine affection for him, and he sort of has affection for her. Like, we see towards the end, he's like, "Oh, Haista, it means beautiful in Afghan," and all this stuff, and I mean, it kind of makes sense.
That's the thing, yeah. With Dalton, it was always he prioritized the mission over the girls, whereas I think Roger Moore sometimes allowed himself to enjoy himself with the ladies while he was on the mission. But Dalton was much more forward focused on the mission he had to do, particularly with License to Kill, where he was going rogue. But yeah, I think there's something to say about Dalton's chemistry with the ladies. I mean, to follow Roger Moore, who was essentially the quintessential Bond ladies man, yeah, that's a bit of a tall order. And I think Dalton struggled with some of the charming moments. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think Sam Harrison said "Live and Let Die" was the last time they went to Jamaica. So yeah.
Right, well.
No, but I mean, I think Dalton did struggle a little bit with the charm, because like you said, coming off Roger Moore. I mean, the thing with Roger Moore was he was very charming with the ladies, and you could definitely tell that he had, I mean, he's a very charming, funny guy in real life. So, I mean, you could tell that he definitely had a lot of chemistry with the other Bond girls, and that you could definitely tell that his Bond was very charming and funny, and and with Dalton, his Bond is a lot more intense. He's sort of get the mission done. A very cool Bond, and I think Dalton, I think he was a great Bond, but I think where he did struggle was he sort of struggled a little bit with the humor, and I think he struggled a little bit with the charisma as well when it came to the ladies. You didn't really buy him as much of the romantic scenes like you bought Roger Moore or Sean Connery or
even Daniel Craig as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it just felt at times like it was a bit too intense. Like when they're in the shop and Kara says, "Oh, about that dress," and he says, "Oh, let's buy it. Gorgie will pay for it." It's a bit too intense, I think, Tim. I mean, I don't know whether he was trying to pay respect to Connery in that, but I just think Timothy Dalton's style of acting, it doesn't always suit those particular scenes. I mean, the scene in the Ferris wheel where him and Kara make love, should we say, is interesting.
I don't think they have sex, but
yeah. Well, they certainly they certainly snog. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But when he's like, "Don't think, just let it happen," it does come across as a little awkward. I mean, it's slightly better with Carrie Lowell in License to Kill, but even then, there's not a huge amount of chemistry. And I did not buy him
at all with Talisa Soto as, oh God, as Lupe. Yeah, I mean,
I just love James so much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, I really don't. I really don't buy that she would be into his betrayal of Bond. I really wouldn't buy that she would be in love
Yeah,
with Dalton's
Timothy,
Bond.
for God's sake,
I mean, Dalton's I mean, he's a good-looking guy and all that, but I just think Dalton, he's very intense. Like that bit where she's like talking to him in the like she's talking to Dalton. And then he's like, "Oh, you seem to like it, like Sanchez. You seem to like it,
yeah.
I don't.
There's that really cringe scene where he's got his shirt off and she comes into his room and she's like, "No, don't go, stay, please." It's like, I'll be back, I promise, or something like that. And he's got his shirt off and he's smugging her in. I mean, Timothy Dalton's not the most muscular man. He's quite a thin guy, and it just doesn't look right. I don't know why. It just looked awkward. I mean, it didn't help that Talisa Soto's acting was pretty poor as well. But also, the very end of License to Kill is complete cornball when he jumps in the swimming pool and then with Pam, and then he says, "Why don't you ask me?" It's and he says to Lupe, he says, "I think you and El Presidente will make a wonderful couple." It's just his delivery of it is just very intense. I mean, he's fantastic with the action sequences and the more ruthless sides of the character, but it's the charming sides of the character that he lacks, and I think that affected the Bond girls in his era, even though he did 2 films. But yeah, it's a real shame, to be honest. But that's the Timothy Dalton era.
And I guess if we have to talk about the Brosnan era,
I mean, I will give Bob this. He was actually. He had a certain coolness with the ladies. I'll give him that. He had a certain smoothness, but it wasn't nearly as good as Roger Moore, as far as I'm concerned, or even Connery.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Brosnan is he's a very good-looking guy, and you can definitely buy that he could seduce all these women. But I just think with Brosnan, I just don't really buy the chemistry with a lot of the Bond girls. Like, I don't really buy the chemistry between him and Natalia. I don't really buy the chemistry between. Well, there is no chemistry between him and Paris Carver. I mean, that whole scene is just so terrible in Tomorrow Never Dies, where he's like,
"Oh, the reason you're off."
You made your bed. And even Brosnan said that he thought Terry Hatcher wasn't really giving it her all when she was doing Tomorrow Never Dies. And I mean, and I find it so fucking weird as well when like Brosnan necrophiles all the women like after they die. I mean. I mean, you pointed this out, and I agree. Like, when Paris dies, it's like sniffing her and all this shit. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, obviously, he doesn't like fully go full necrophile, but he implies that he's going to do it by sniffing them up and kissing them when they're dead. It's like, oh, it's just weird. Like, why do you do that, Brosnan? I mean, I don't think that was the moment that was directed. I think that was just Brosnan improvising. It's just.
Yeah.
Why would every director tell him to do that? I mean, whatever.
I mean, it doesn't help as well that the Bond girls, the dialogue that he was given, they just really did not buy that they were together. Like, I mean, fucking Wei Lin and Bond.
I'll tell you what, though, in his defense, the only one I will say I bought was Natalia. Even then, she was a bit over the top, but they actually had the best chemistry out of all of his Bond girls. Him and Isabella Perko had a decent chemistry. But even then, her performance is above the top. But I mean, the whole thing with Xenia. I mean, I don't know if she counts as a Bond girl because she's a henchwoman. But there is that really weird scene in the sauna where she tries it on with him and tries to crush him with her legs. I mean, that's just a very strange moment,
There is one funny moment though where he's like, "Take me to Yanis," and then they're in the car, and he's like, "Oh well, this has been a really pleasant evening." She's like, "Oh yes, and once again, the pleasure was all yours." And then then he's like, "I'm gonna go now," and she's like, "Oh, I won't lose sleep over it." And then Brosnan just knocks her out, and he's like, "Oh, sweet dreams." Like, that was quite funny.
The thing is, as well, with Brosnan, like I agree about Michelle Yeoh as Wei Lin, but then again, she wasn't cast for a sexual chemistry. She was cast to fucking kick kung fu. That was all she was there for. But
sadly,
the world is not enough. The world is not enough. oh well, we'll get to Christmas Jones in a minute, but Elektra, I think they were trying to imply that Bond cared for Elektra, and I don't know why. But it doesn't work. Like they don't have a lot of chemistry because Sophie Marceau's acting is very poor, and she's a beautiful girl, and then obviously they have that passionate love scene, but it just it doesn't feel like there is chemistry. I mean, I don't know what Michael Acton was imply, whether they were meant to be lovers or not, but I think it's very unclear. I mean, the fact that he kills her though, that was a good decision. I did like that. The fact that Bond actually killed someone he'd presumably had affection for, which was quite cold and could show how. I think it's probably one of Brosnan's best moments actually as Bond, where he kills Elektra.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But then he starts to sniff her up. It's like, what the fuck? And even M is watching. Like, Jesus, man, what the hell? It's such a weird moment. I mean, would you agree with that? Like,
yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree. I just don't understand why Brosnan. Someone's asked us, coronavirus good or bad? I think it's bad.
What do you?
But oh god, no. But I mean, I think the problem with Brosnan, like the whole necrophile thing, I just don't get it. I mean, like you said, he doesn't go full on like necrophile, like raping the bodies, but it's so weird when he's like, sniffing them up, like, oh, Paris, it's just fucking weird,
He was going to do it in Die Another Day. He was going to do it in Die Another Day with Miranda when she got stabbed with the Bible and the knife. Oh, it's weird to say that, but and then he sees her on the floor. He bends down and he's like, "Oh my God, Miranda!" And then Jinx is like, "Guess we're going down together." So she stops him from doing it there, but still, it's just weird. But I mean, with Christmas Jones, let's be fair, there's no chemistry. None.
Oh God.
Denise Richards is there to be a fucking babe. And I mean, yeah, okay, she does her job and she gets paid. Good for her.
Yeah.
But
she's just there to she's just there to wiggle her tits. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining about that, but
yeah.
You know what? I mean, it's just the name. It's just the name that bothers me, really.
Yeah.
Her performance is still right, but I don't really. I mean, I don't buy her as a nuclear physicist, but I wouldn't care so much if she wasn't called Christmas Jones.
No, that is the worst Bond name ever. But I mean, before I talk about Christmas briefly, I just want to finish off on Elektra. I mean, I just think Elektra, like I don't really know what Michael Apted was trying to do. I think he was trying to do this thing like, Bond, was close to Elektra, but I never bought it. Like when she says, "Oh, you wouldn't kill me, you'd miss me." It's like I was just thinking to myself, well, yeah, Bond would kill you because you really mean nothing to him. Like he even says, like, you meant nothing to me. It's like I don't know what he was trying to do. Like whether he thought maybe Elektra thought that Bond loved her, or maybe Bond did love Elektra. Like I really don't know what he was trying to do there, but. I mean, it's just
tied to every character. Like she was tied to, she was in love with Renard. She knew M from somewhere, and she presumably had affections for Bond as well, and he, vice versa. So it was like, I don't know. And then it's like, oh, okay, she wants to take over her father's oil pipeline, and she was responsible for her father's death. Like, what the fuck? It didn't make a lot of sense. It was very convoluted. That film for my taste.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, obviously, I'll let you talk about Christmas Jones, but Sam has a question. But we'll get to that when we finish talking about the Craig Bond girls. So just bear with us for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, I mean, just to wrap up briefly on Elektra, and then I'll get to Christmas. I just never bought the angle they were trying to do, where Bond maybe was in love with Elektra, but maybe she was in love with him, and. Like I said, she said, "Oh no, you can't kill me, James. Not in cold blood." It's like yes, he would. Like he says, "Oh, I meant nothing to you. Meant nothing to me." And then, there's that. He's like, one last screw. I mean, that was just kind of cringy when, Bond's getting tortured in the chair. But when he kills Elektra, that was good. But I don't know what they were trying to go for that. Like, I mean, and you're sort of watching the film, and you're thinking to yourself, wait. Is she in love with Renard, or is she in love with Bond, or is she just using them both? she doesn't like either of them. But I don't know. But
the thing is, I think what they were trying to go for was that they were trying to make out that Bond was falling for her, but then he didn't because he felt betrayed by her. But she was always in love with Renard. I don't really know. It's not very clear. It's a bit of a mess, to be honest.
And Christmas Jones, like, I mean, Denise Richards is very good to look at for two reasons, but two very big reasons. But yeah, Christmas Jones. There's no chemistry between Brosnan and Denise Richards. I mean, she's just there to wiggle her tits, to be sexy. yeah. She looks good in the as a nuclear physicist, but I mean, I never bought her as this nuclear physicist. I'm sorry, I never bought that.
Someone's tampered with the bomb.
Yeah, and yeah, it was just like that, the ending is just so cringy. I always wanted Christmas in Turkey. I thought Christmas only came out once a year. It's just like, for God's sake,
The fucking Christmas, that stupid line at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Not only that, but I guess we should get to Die Another Day. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, I mean, there is no chemistry whatsoever between Brosnan and Halle Berry as Jinx, and that whole stuff with Jinx is just so cringy. Like where he meets her at the beach, and he's like, "Oh, what do predators do with their prey? They feast like there's no tomorrow." God, the one-liners are just absolute bottom of the barrel shit.
Oh. But worse than that, the fucking steamy sex scene that follows that's awkward. Like you said, it's like Brosnan's kind of underwater and Halle Berry's like out of breath, and then she cuts the fruit. Like, what the hell? It makes no sense. Like, I miss the touch of a good woman who says I'm good. Yeah, it's like Brosnan's to keep up with her because he's so old. He's nearly 50 years old, and
he's like gasping for air. He's like. Just cringy. I mean, like Tamahori
give Bond the best lay that he's ever had, and I don't think that is true, Tamahori.
I mean, Alan did a really great sketch of that in his ranking. Sadly, that video is no longer up. He re-edited it with the audio, but I love that the way he recreated that scene from Die Another Day. Like, who says I'm good?
But also the other Bond girl, Miranda Frost. I also believe there's no chemistry with her. Like, the Bond girls in Die Another Day are just so bad. Like, they're just so boring. And
God, and of course, the great one-liner. I take it Mr. Bond's been explaining his Big Bang Theory. Yeah, I got the rest of it.
Oh my God, it's so bad. I mean, that's worse than the Christmas one-liner at the end of The World Is Not Enough. But oh my God, I mean,
it's just the way it's just the way it's just the way Halle Berry delivers it.
The fact that he pauses the effect, like, is so stupid. But I also don't like the moment where the two Bond girls are fighting at the end of the film, and then she says, "I can read your every move. Read this, bitch." Like, really? Oh God!
I don't like that, but they're trying to recreate the scene from Doctor No where she comes out of the water. It's like, Halle Berry's gorgeous woman, but really,
it's not a recreate. It's just not. They try too hard to make it kind of exotic.
Not only that, but she's got like the same like knife that Honey Rider had. It's just, and that's the thing with Die Another Day. I mean, it's like a cliched parody of the Bond movies. I mean, it's almost like watching an unofficial Bond movie, Die Another Day. That's how fucking bad it is. But
yeah. The only other Bond girl to talk about is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Madonna.
I don't like cockfights.
Yeah, I don't like cockfights. I've been known to keep my tip up. I mean, yeah, Brosnan, we know. Look at how many women you slept with in this series. God, I mean, the fact that Madonna got a cameo, that doesn't bother me. It's the shitty dialogue that they give her is stupid. I don't have an issue with her character. The fact that she's a fence constructor, I don't give a shit about that. That's fine. But it's the crappy dialogue that makes it insufferable. I mean,
why is she in the movie? Why is she fucking in the movie? She's just there because she's Madonna. and her dialogue is, and it's implied that she's a lesbian. I don't like cockfights, and it's like, you know, for fuck's sake, look, why is she in this movie? You know, this.
It's like the Brosnan era treats the women like absolute jokes, with the exception of Goldeneye. The other three movies kind of treat the women as jokes. I mean, even Wei Lin from Tomorrow Never Dies, they take the piss out of her. Elliot Carver makes fun of her doing kung fu. He goes, pathetic. It's just so bad. And then they kill Harris. They kill Elektra. They treat Christmas Jones as nothing more than a sex object. They kill off Miranda Frost. Halle Berry is a sex object. Look, like, none of them have any character, or very rarely, except Natalia probably. And Xenia.
And not only that, but like, I mean, talking about Miranda briefly, I mean, Miranda Frost, she's a good actress, but I mean, they're trying to do this thing like where, you know, she's with, there's that scene where she has sex with Bond in the Ice Palace, and then later on she betrays Bond. It's supposed to be like this thing, like, oh my God, she's supposed to be so shocked that she betrayed Bond. She's working for Gustav Graves, but you see that coming from a mile away, because we already saw her with Gustav Graves at the start, and Bond's, he's supposed to, you're supposed to feel bad for Bond that somehow he was betrayed by Miranda, but it's like there's no chemistry there, and and some of the one-liners there are just terrible, like, oh, sex for dinner, death for breakfast, like, oh God,
I mean, my God, it's like, I mean, the whole betrayal thing, I don't know if it really worked, because it was kind of confusing, like, her motivations for, like, why she betrayed him. Like, she never really knew him until she met him in London when he came to see Gustav Graves, but
not only that, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, not only that, but I mean, the thing is, it's not only just that. It's like the fact that they're trying to make you feel something for Bond, like he was betrayed by, Miranda Frost. He's like, oh, so you were the leak in MI6. It's like, you don't give a fuck,
And you know what else? Just like Elektra, they tried to make you think that Bond actually cared for Miranda, because the way he looked when she dies, like, he gets down on his knees and he's like, he covers his face with his hand and he's looking as if he's about to break down. It's like, I didn't think he cared that much for her. It just like, and considering she betrayed him as well, honestly, Die Another Day is such a mess. But let's move on to the Craig era, and then we'll answer Sam's question. I don't want to keep Sam waiting for too long. So we have obviously ranked them already, but just talking briefly, what do you think of the Bond girls of the Craig era so far?
What I really liked with Casino Royale was that they really gave us a three-dimensional Bond girl, because let's be honest, most of the Bond girls in the series are just there as sex objects. Just, they're just there for Bond to have sex with. And, I mean, they're just there to have, to Bond to have sex. Yeah, I mean, most of the Bond girls are just there to have sex with Bond, and they're disposable sort of sex objects. But what I really liked was
so much.
Oh God, yeah. But what I really liked with Casino Royale, and I've seen interviews with Eva Green, and what I really like about Vesper Lynd is, like Eva Green said, she's not your typical Bond girl in a bikini. She's just as smart as Bond. She's got weaknesses, but but she's also attracted to Bond. But she's intelligent. She's not like a blonde head. She's not like a blonde bimbo. She's a smart. She's a very smart, very sexy woman, and and that's what makes that's what makes her character one of the best Bond girls, is that she's a three-dimensional human being who falls for Bond gradually. It's not like an instant thing. She thinks.
She thinks that he's an arrogant prick, and only after a certain amount of time going through their experience does she fall for him. But she's his equal, like, and I think that's what's interesting about this, because with Tracy, it wasn't that. Tracy was a girl that needed a man to kind of, well, I know this sounds really bad, man to dominate her.
Dominate her.
Yeah, those were the times, but she needed someone to tie her down. So someone could look after her when her father was gone. But with Vesper, like you say, she's his equal, and they are equally matched. Like there's that scene when they meet on the train and they're reading each other, and they work out where each other come from, how they are with one another, and their love story, it generally works. I mean, I agree. I mean, and funny enough, Eva Green said in an interview she wasn't going to take the role if it was just going to be another sort of bimbo who dresses in skimpy clothes and in bikinis and is there to be sexy. She wanted to play a character, and yeah, I agree with everything you've just said. And I think it's genuinely tragic when she dies at the end of the film. It's genuinely such a sad scene when Bond tries to rescue her from the sinking house in the elevator, and he can't revive her. It's a real sad scene.
Yeah. One thing I will say though is I wish she did get in a bikini, because Eva Green's got a nice rack.
Oh yeah, I mean that dress that she wears is still pretty damn good. But also they have with sensitivity as well. The fact that Bond comforts her in the shower, that moment was always very.
Yeah, that's a great moment. Yeah,
because that's the first time he's ever really treated women with sensitivity and sincerity. Well, with the exception of Tracy. She's been through a traumatic experience. She with the fight sequence that's just happened, and he comforts her. It's just a lovely moment. And, for Craig's Bond as well, it showed that he could actually prove to be a Bond who could deal with the more emotional scenes and the more sensitive side. And he could be great with women, unlike Timothy Dalton, but focusing on, obviously, the Bond girls, of course.
Let's be honest. Sorry to interrupt, but let's be honest. I think Lazenby probably had the worst. Was probably the worst when it came to the Bond girls. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Tracy dying at the end wasn't helpful, but I think also it was a wonderful moment that was played well by Craig and Eva Green, and they have such a very good chemistry across the film. I mean, Eva Green was just perfect for the role. I mean, what would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think she brought a lot of character to Vesper, and she brought a lot of sensitivity, and I really, I think she works really well with Daniel Craig. And that scene that you're talking about, where they're in the shower, she's in the shower and Bond, he comes in and. She's obviously traumatized by what's happened. I mean, you never really seen that before in a Bond film, and I really appreciate that. They took the time to have a scene like that, and it makes her a really three-dimensional character. And I think Eva Green is great in that. And I like as well that that scene where she's kidnapped and Bond goes after her in the car, and then. We see how dedicated he is to Vesper, that he won't talk, he won't give away the password, and then, she's... I love that bit where she sort of... he tells her the password, and she cries a little bit, and then she's like, oh, if all there was left of you was your smile and your little finger, there'd be more of a man than anyone else. And, Bond's like, oh, that's because you know what I could do with my little finger, But, yeah.
It was important that moment after such a dark scene. And I think what was also interesting about Vesper was the fact that she betrayed him. She was the first Bond girl to sort of betray Bond and help him learn his lesson that he couldn't trust anyone, which I think was an interesting idea. And it's an idea that they're going to revisit in No Time to Die with Madeline. But with Vesper, it was really shocking for him because he'd really fallen for her, and she didn't want to do it. In a way, I think she was kind of forced into betraying him. But she did leave him the number for Mr. White, so that she sort of led him on to the organization. But it was generally shocking when he felt betrayed. I mean, and obviously Quantum of Solace, he's still trying to get over her betrayal and also her death. And he has a mixture of emotions about it. But I think, just as a character, Vesper is just fantastic. And yeah, I guess the only other Bond girl in Casino Royale is Solange, although she's only in the film for a few minutes. But it was quite shocking to see her dead actually in that hammock. That was kind of shocking.
It was
they killed her.
it was also shocking that we saw Bond turn down sex, like, you know, where that bit where, you know, she goes into the bedroom and then he's like, "Oh, bring me some champagne." He's like, "Oh, should I make it for two, sir?" He's like, "No, for one." And then he just goes off on his mission. But
Yeah,
I really like Vesper though. Like, just to wrap up with her, like, I mean, I thought, yeah, the whole betrayal thing that was handled very well. Because I mean, you see Bond's, you know, he's he's hurt by it. But I mean, what's interesting is she betrayed him, but she she was trying to save his life. You know,
yeah,
M reveals at the end that she made a deal. Like the only reason Bond survived that torture was because she made a deal with them that she would give them the money to spare Bond's life, and then we see at the end of that, you know,
went to
she's
her
in the
death.
lift. Yeah, she's in the lift. She pulls out the key. But I mean, I kind of agree with Calvin Dyson. Like the reaction on her face is a little bit weird. Like she takes the key out and then joins, but at the end, it looks like she's trying to, you know, ask Bond to save her life. Like she kind of realized, oh shit, you know, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But
Yeah,
um, no,
perhaps.
but
I
I
don't know
do
if
think,
to make it more tragic, perhaps. But what's also interesting is that obviously, obviously he gets over her in Quantum of Solace. At the end of the Quantum of Solace, it's implied that obviously, okay, he's over Vesper now. And then in Spectre, they find that secret room and he sees the tape of Vesper Lind, which is like her when she was tortured. And I think it brings back a lot of memories. So he's always thought about Vesper, and she's always been in his mind. But it's funny how he's sort of living with that pain for a long time, which is a real
yeah.
interesting thing.
I
Yeah,
mean, I do like that bit in Casino Royale where it says the bitch is dead. I mean, that was in the book, and it works well because, you know, Bond, you know, he's been betrayed by the love of his life, and
yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, if he would have, if she hadn't died in the lift, he could have killed her. I mean, he even said, "Allow me." When the
yeah,
guy grabs, he says, "I'll kill her. Allow me." So he would have,
yeah.
he could have gone to that length, but he did.
I
He
I,
probably loved to do that.
I think if she lived, he would have interrogated her, and
Yeah,
possibly kill, and maybe he could have killed her, like if, you know, she didn't give him the information, like maybe in a fit of rage he could have hurt her, but I don't know. But I mean, I do like in Quantum of Solace though the way Bond is. I really like the fact that it's like, I think it's really the first Bond film where we see Bond genuinely affected by the death of a woman in his life. I mean, we
yeah.
never saw. Uh, I mean, like we never got Diamonds Are Forever like as a revenge film with
Yeah.
Lazenby, or
We never saw
but
Tracy's death. It was Diamonds Are Forever just sort of had Bond go off with Blofeld, and then it ignored on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was
yeah.
a real downer, to be honest. But yeah, no, I think your points about Quantum of Solace are good. But speaking of which, the Bond girls in Quantum of Solace, I think, are a pretty mixed bag, to be honest. I mean, Camille has a very interesting story, and I do like her character and her journey that she goes on. But Fields, uh, yeah, she's not used in the best way, but it's not Gemma Arterton's fault.
Yeah, no, I mean, talking about Camille, I think Camille is one of my favorite Bond girls because of her backstory. Like Vesper, she's a developed character. She's just not, you know, a scantily clad uh, Bond girl. And what I like about the film as well is that Bond doesn't really have a romance with Camille, and I think that works because
Yeah,
Bond is still grieving over the death of
yeah,
Vesper, and it would just kind of cheapen Camille's character if she was just there to, you know, have sex with Bond and that was it. And I like the
yeah,
fact that her character is on this revenge mission and she does want Meldrano dead because of, you know, her family being killed by him. And I like the fact that she sort of has the same motivation as Bond. There's that great scene in the sinkhole where she describes what happened. Like Meldrano came in and, you know, killed her family, and, you know, he was just smiling at her and she was too young to do anything.
yeah.
Um, and then, you know, Bond says, "Oh, you know," she's like, "Oh, are you after someone as well?" He's like, "Yes." It's like, "Have you found him?" "No, not yet." And she says, "Oh, well, when you do and you kill them, tell me, tell me how it's like. I want to know." Um, that's done
Mm,
really
yeah,
well, and And I really like the scene as well where she's got the gun and Bond says, "Oh, you know, you only
You only
get
get
one chance.
make it
Yeah,
count.
make it count." Yeah, that's very well done.
Yeah. And I think she's definitely a very well developed character. I mean, for one thing, in Quantum of Solace, I mean, whatever people think of the movie, surely you can't deny that she's a very well written character. And I mean, it's it, it's interesting how I mean the fact that she's Bolivian Secret Service, that whole plot is never taken anywhere. I don't think you needed to make her a Secret Service agent. I think she was just, it would have been, it's just fine to have her as a normal person. I mean, it doesn't affect the film either way. But the fact that Bond says to her, my sources tell me you're Bolivian Secret Service and you infiltrated Green's organization by having sex with him. She could have just been someone who knew Green. She didn't have to be a Secret Service agent, but that doesn't really matter too much. But as for Fields, this is a really controversial one because Gemma Arterton's lovely. She's just such a lovely lady, and she's a great actress. But I feel sorry for the way Fields was dispatched of in this film. It was just a bit. It didn't feel right, to be honest. The fact that they were trying to rip off the Goldfinger moment, it just didn't have the same impact. I mean, as a character, she's okay, but she's clearly there just for Bond to sleep with her. I'd rather they have just had her been, shot or something, or perhaps she just left. I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about Fields, or should I say, Strawberry Fields?
Strawberry Fields, yeah, she's not the best Bond girl there is, but for the scenes she's in, Gemma Arterton, she's very good to look at, I will say, and I do like some scenes of her and Bond. Like, I mean, I like the fact that she's just there to bring Bond back home, and Bond, he just won't have any of it. He's just Like, there's that really funny bit where they check into the hotel, and he's like, "Oh, no way! I'd rather be dead than go into that dumpster or whatever it is." Like, yeah, that was very funny.
She's meant to be some kind of secretary. She works in an office, and he says to her, "I can't find the stationery. Want to help me look?" She seems to be quite charmed by that. So,
yeah,
yeah.
No, but I do like the scene though where he says, "Oh, I can't find the stationery. Want to help me look?" And I mean, it is quite interesting. Like, she sort of, well, I mean, of course, you would fall for Bond, wouldn't you? I mean, Daniel Craig's very charming, but I mean, her death. Yeah, I will agree. Like, even as a kid, seeing the film in the cinema, I'm just like, yeah, they just ripped that off Goldfinger. But her death was kind of, there was a bit of an impact there. Like, I do like the bit where Judi Dench says, "Oh no, for God's sake, Bond! All she was the secretary, and you got her killed." And you do feel bad for her character that she died in such a horrible way because I mean, she's just a secretary, and you feel bad that Bond kind of he put her life on the line by just being reckless and.
I mean, he sort of inadvertently caused the death. I mean, M says that line of "Look how well your charm works on them, James." I mean, she even says to him, "You're so blinded by inconsolable rage, you don't care who you hurt," and that applies to Fields, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, I can't find the stationery. Will help me look. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Like, she's kind of like Bond. He just sleeps with. He just kind of sleeps with her. And then they go down to that party, and then she's not really in it much, but that's that's just the way it is. But moving on to Skyfall, I mean, the only real Bond girl we can talk about is Severine, because M is kind of is considered to be the main Bond girl because she's focused on. But I mean, Moneypenny, I don't know if she really counts because she's Moneypenny. So I guess we'll just talk about Severine. I mean, I really like Severine as a character. I really love her backstory. The fact that she's just scared and she's got all these bodyguards surrounding her. She was from Macau sex trade. She belonged to one of the houses. She's a prostitute and she works for Silver, but she's totally terrified of this guy. And Bond offers her some kind of comfort, although sadly they kill her off, which is a bit of a shame. My only complaint with Skyfall is that Severine is sort of underutilized because I really liked, the fact that they were setting her up to be this really intriguing, mysterious character because the way she dresses and the way she looks in that casino, she almost looks like she dresses all in black and she's got dark makeup. She looks almost kind of gothic and kind of almost deceptive. I mean, I thought at first she was kind of a villain, but no, she's just someone who's really trapped in a bad situation. I mean, what do you think of Severine?
I really like Severine. I mean, she's not in the film a lot, but for the scenes she's in, I think she's really great. Like the last scene where she's like, "Oh, now you can afford to buy me a drink."
Maybe
and yeah, and the scene where she's talking to Bond, and Bond says, "Oh, by the way, you keep looking over there. I could tell you're a woman who's scared." And he's like, "Oh, that sign on your hand. It's a sign of the Macaw sex trade." It's interesting that, I mean, she kind of reminds me a little bit of Andrea Anders from Man with the Golden Gun.
Yes.
Like, I guess she's sort of like Silva's prisoner, like,
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a very interesting idea. And like she says, "Oh, those men there, they've been ordered to kill you. If you survive, then you can make it onto the boat. We cast off in the morning or whatever." Yeah.
I will say the shower scene is a little creepy. I mean, a lot of people have mentioned this. Like, he does kind of just come into the shower unannounced and says, "I like you better without your Beretta. I feel naked without them." Considering she's like an ex-prostitute, it's a bit creepy. But although she doesn't turn him down, so I suppose that's something.
I suppose. I suppose she wanted Bond anyway, because she said, I'll be a free. We're casting off in the evening. And you remember when she was in the boat and the guy comes in, she had like a bottle of champagne waiting for Bond, like, and then Bond didn't arrive, and she thought like, "Oh, he's dead," but then of course Bond was in the shower.
Yeah, so I guess you're right. And plus, she's an ex-prostitute, so she's very much used to sleeping around with people. But her death scene actually is quite intense. I mean, because by that point in the film, we know that she's a vulnerable character, and when they get taken to the island, and then she gets taken away, and she says, "I'm sorry, for what's happened," and then they have to shoot the shot glass that's on her head, and then Silva just shoots her dead. And then I do think Bond's line is a little bit insensitive, though, when he says, "It's a waste of good scotch." I mean, it's a good one-liner, but it's a bit insensitive.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that. I think another line that's pretty insensitive. I mean, we've already mentioned the character, but Electra King. She's like, "Oh, you wouldn't kill me. You'd miss me." And then Bond like shoots her in cold blood. And then Bond just says afterwards, "I never miss." Yeah, it's a bit cold to say that after you just shot her in cold blood. And
I mean, even for Bond, I know Bond is a cold character, but I mean, Bond, I mean, even Mark Commode said about Skyfall. It's the one thing where he was like, "I don't think Bond would say that," and I agree. I just think it's a bit too rash for Bond. I don't think he really needed to say anything, or perhaps they could have changed the line to have it, suit a bit better. I mean, because it does feel like, the woman's just died, and you go, "Oh, wasted good scotch." He's just brushing it off. But yeah, I don't know. For me, it just didn't really come across in the right way. But
maybe he could have done the pain face like Brosnan, like. That would have been interesting. Well,
God, yeah. But no, I mean, for Severine's brief appearance in the movie, she does do a good job. But I mean, Berenice Marlowe, the actress, is very enchanting in the role, and she adds a lot of mystery to the character, and you do feel sorry for her in her situation. And she is a little bit like Andrea, I suppose, but honestly, Andrea has a bit more screen time and a bit more development in The Man with the Golden Gun. But, I guess we kind of have to move on to Spectre with obviously Monica Bellucci. We'll talk about her first because she's not in it much, but her character's called Lucia, but everyone just calls her Monica Bellucci just because, well, yeah. So Lucia's kind of the actually before Lucia, I should say, is another Bond girl who I suppose she sort of counts. We don't know. I don't know her name, but she's the one in the Day of the Dead scene where Bond actually turns her down, which is kind of funny. She's this random Mexican girl, and she says, "Oh, where are you going?" And he says, "Oh, I'm gonna be long," which is kind of funny. He turns her down. But moving on to Monica Bellucci, I liked the character. She was good, but she was heavily marketed. I think they over marketed her for the film. I think they, considering she wasn't going to be in it much, I think they could have probably got away with not promoting her too much. But then again, she's such a famous actress. But I like her character arc. The fact that she's afraid of what Spectre are going to do to her because of what she knows. Because I mean, her husband has just died, and although it is it's a bit ironic the fact that her husband dies, and then the funeral's on the same day, and then Bond manages to get into bed with her, considering he killed her husband as well. It's kind of creepy, but I liked Monica Bellucci's performance, but and she was the right age for Daniel Craig. They had a closer age range, which was nice, but yeah, she's only in the film for about 5 minutes, so yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on Lucia Sciarra, or Monica Bellucci in Spectre?
I thought she was really good in the film. Although I mean, she was not like Severine. She wasn't really in the film that much, but the scenes that she was in, I thought she was great. I mean, I really thought that she had a good chemistry with Daniel Craig. It's interesting that her character, was the wife of this mobster, Sciarra, and turns out he was part of Spectre. And I do like the scene where she comes home and she's got a drink and she realizes those two guys are about to kill her, and then Bond kills him, and then he arrives and he says, "Oh, lovely view," which is really funny.
Yeah,
but
that was quite an intense moment. We thought she was going to die in that scene, but then because the way it was shot as well, like obviously the guys in the background were out of focus, and we just hear the gunshots. So we think, "Oh shit, what happened there?" But then Bond obviously comes forward. But yeah, no, that was a very well directed moment from Sam Mendes, I must say.
And it's interesting how she's kind of pissed off at Bond. She's like, "Oh, you killed my husband. All you did was make me a woman marked for death, and then I think she says like, all you've done is postpone my death,
Yeah, you signed my death warrant. Yeah, I was respected, and he says, "Oh, your husband was an assassin." I'm sure he wouldn't take it personally. Yeah, but I mean, it's a shame how brief she is in the film, because obviously we're led to believe that Felix Leiter is coming to rescue her, but we don't see any resolution to that. We don't know what happens to her. So presumably he does rescue her, but it's left very ambiguous to the audience. It's not a major complaint, but it would have been nice to have had some resolution with her character, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think, she could have been in it a bit more, but yes, I suppose that then we should move on to Madeline.
Yes, Leia Seydoux as Madeline Swan, who will be returning in No Time to Die. So, and she's the only Bond girl other than Sylvia Trench to have returned for more than to be in more than one film. But I really like Leia Seydoux, Madeline. I think she's a beautiful girl, and her character is very three-dimensional. It was an interesting idea to make her the daughter of Mr. White, and the fact that she had some familiarity with the organization meant that she did have a place in the story. The only downside I would say is the love story. It feels a little rushed, and it does feel like we're very quickly meant to believe that these two are in love. I never felt that at first, but I mean, you definitely get that they have attractions to each other, but like to say that they fall in love, I never really felt that until the very end of the film, when Bond decides to pack in MI6 and leave with her.
I got better things to do.
yeah, I've got better things to do. But to be fair, I think we'll get more exploration into that in No Time to Die. But yeah, I think as a character, she's brilliant, and I love the fact, like the scene when she's drunk in the hotel and she's like, "Don't think this is why I fall into your arms to seek solace for my dead daddy." She's trying to deal with her father's death. She's never had a close relationship with her dad, but she still loves him and she still misses him. And like the scene when Blofeld plays the clip of his death, that really affects her. And I think she has a lot of emotional baggage, and as a character, she's really engaging, and she's played very well by Léa Seydoux, and she's a beauty, and especially in that dress. I mean, wow, she's gorgeous, and she has good chemistry with Craig. But yeah, and I like that she's sort of this clinic doctor, and she's hiding out in this medical clinic. But no, she's a great character, and I look forward to seeing her more explored in No Time to Die. I think there's going to be a different perspective on Madeleine in the next film. But what do you think of her?
I think Madeleine is one of my favorite Bond girls. I know Sam Harrison isn't really a fan of her. He thinks she's a bit annoying, but I always like Madeleine. And what I like about her character, again, is like Vesper. You can see the attraction that Bond has to Madeleine. You know, she's smart, she's intelligent, she's good looking, and you can see why Bond does fall for her. But I do agree with you. I do think the love story in Spectre is a little bit non-existent. I mean, at the end, you definitely understand why Bond, would fall in love with her. I mean, I think what Sam Mendes was trying to do was he was trying to do this thing. Like, I mean, this is the last Bond film he's directing, and I think he intended it to be Daniel Craig's last Bond film. Like he said to Craig, maybe you should call it a day with Spectre.
I mean, he had said when he made the film there was a sense of completion, but only a sense. So if they decided to carry on, that would have been up to them. But Mendes, I guess, was trying to approach it from, like you say, a sense of finality, but not necessarily completely. So, like the idea of Bond going off at the end, you could either perceive that as he's finished with MI6 or he's marrying Madeleine. But that doesn't mean he can't come back. So yeah, I guess he left it up to the producers to say what they do next. But yeah, I think you're right about that.
I think he was going for a retirement angle at the end of Spectre. Like, he's like, I got more important things to do, and then we see he comes to see he comes to see Q at the end, and then he gets the DB5, and then Madeleine's in the DB5. I think that's heavily hinting towards the fact that Bond is retiring and he's sort of going off into the sunset. I think if they had ended the Craig era with that, I mean, I'm glad they didn't end the Craig era of Spectre, but I think if that was the last Craig Bond film, I think it would have been heavily implied that that was his sort of riding off, and him sort of riding off into the sunset with Madeleine, in the car. Yeah.
I mean, also the fact that the song "Writings on the Wall" is a ballad, and I think it's referencing Bond and Madeleine's love. Meant to be a love ballad, a love theme, which I think is also sort of relates to them. But it's interesting as well because she has a lot of she has an interesting backstory about how she used the gun as well, so she's able to defend herself. Like there's the scene on the train where Bond is saying, "I'm going to teach you how to use a gun," and all that, and then she's like, "Well, there's a man who came to our house, and then I found a gun under the sink with a bleach, and whatever." And then Bond says, "Oh, I think we'll skip hand-to-hand combat," but and she's actually quite scared of Blofeld as well. I think Christoph Waltz made quite an impression on her as Blofeld. I mean, there's the moment where they meet and then he says, "I'm so glad you came too, Madeleine. You were just a girl when I last saw you." She says, "I don't remember." He says, "I do." But I think there's still a lot more to explore with her character, which is interesting in No Time to Die. So I look forward to that. But I agree with your point about her. And I think she's just such an electric screen presence. She's such a likable, character. And Léa Seydoux is just, she's just beautiful. She's a really beautiful French actress. Just a real delight to watch. I mean, perhaps the love story is a bit rushed and could have been fleshed out a bit more. I mean, I guess they do turn Madeleine into a damsel in distress, but that didn't bother me too much.
Or a damsel in a dress.
Or a damsel in a dress, yeah. But that didn't really bother me that much, to be honest. I mean, it didn't affect her character for me whatsoever. But I like the fact that we're going to see more of her in the next film. I really do like that. And I think it just proves the point that Bond really cannot trust anyone, and he really can't settle down. He tried it once with Vesper, now he's tried it again, and it always comes back to bite him, which I think they're trying to do this whole full circle thing with Craig. They're trying to bring his era to a full circle stop.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah, that's kind of how I see it. I mean, is there anything else you want to say on Madeline before we answer Sam's first question?
No, not really. I look forward to Bond's 25, No Time to Die, and how they sort of wrap up her storyline. Because I think, you know, this is Craig's last film, so probably the last film with Madeline as well. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if she has betrayed Bond, or whether someone lied about her and, you know, she hasn't betrayed Bond. Because she says in that trailer, you know, why would I betray you? And, you know, I mean, it looks like someone set her up. Like Blofeld said, oh, you know, oh, her secrets, you know, and stuff like that. You know, I mean,
the death of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that line in the trailer is so good when he says, "Oh, we all have our secrets. We just didn't get to yours yet." But no, it's really intriguing, and it should be good. But so far, Craig has had some great Bond girls, and I look forward to seeing the other ones as well. Lashana Lynch and Anna de Armas as well. They should be very good.
Anna de Armas.
Yeah, she's beautiful. God, she's such a sexy lady. Oh my God, I'm such a crush on Anna de Armas. But anyway, Sam asks, why do you prefer On Her Majesty's Secret Service to From Russia with Love? Well, for me, Sam, the reason is I know George Lazenby is in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, but to me, I like the fact that On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a more emotional movie. It's the first emotional film, as far as I'm concerned, in the Bond series, and I love the chemistry with. Well, I'd say chemistry. I love Tracy as a character, and I love the way they develop the love story, despite Lazenby's poor performance. And I just think the plot is a lot more engaging than From Russia with Love, even though the film's longer. It's got its light-hearted moments, like with the love story, but it's not too serious either. And I think Blofeld is a great villain as well. I mean, and there's a fantastic action. I mean, not to say From Russia with Love is bad, of course not. From Russia with Love is great, but I've always loved On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's just a classic to me. It's a very hard question, so yeah. But Jack, how would you answer
that? Well, I mean, I prefer From Russia with Love to On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, right.
So
fair enough.
So that's how I'd answer that. Yeah.
Yeah. Care to elaborate on why you prefer it? Obviously, Connery is in it and not Lazenby, but other than that,
I just think it's a great Cold War spy thriller. I love the villains: Rosa Klebb, Red Grant. Many iconic scenes in it. Great action. I love the train fight. I love Red Grant. I just think it's a better film, but that's not saying that On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a bad film at all, because I love that as well. I just think On Her Majesty's Secret Service, for me, even though it's a really great film, there are a few things in there that sort of, like, I mean, I think you said it, and I agree with you. If I did a ranking of the Bond films, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it would be in my top 10, but it'd be towards the bottom half of the top 10 because of Lazenby, and some of the stuff with Sir Hilary Bray is a bit cringy. Like, oh, just a slight stiffness coming on, you know. It's just like, okay, you know.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah. No, that's fair enough. The next question: have you either of you seen the James Bond Jr. animated TV show? I'm sorry, Sam, I haven't seen it, so I can't answer that question, I'm afraid.
I haven't seen it either, but I have seen Calvin Dyson's review of it, and it looks terrible. It doesn't look like anything I'd be interested in. That's just me. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't interest me either. I mean, if I did watch it, I suppose it would be to just do a rant. But yeah, perhaps in the future. Sean Connery main Bond villains. How would you rank them? Well, okay, if we're not going to include Never Say Never Again, let's just go by the 6 official movies, and then we could actually talk about all the villains. Maybe that would be a good way to segue on, if you're Jack.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you go first. just the main villains, not the henchmen. So how would you rank them?
Well, I need to. Well, I mean, in Doctor No, you have Doctor No. In From Russia with Love, you've got Rosa Klebb and Rosa Klebb, I guess, is the main villain for that.
I guess would you just say Spectre really are just the villains, like, or would you just say?
Well, the thing is, about From Russia with Love, you've got Red Grant. He's sort of a henchman. You've got Kronstein in it, but he sort of dies, and he's not really a main villain.
Blofeld has a cameo, really. So I don't know if.
Yeah.
I mean, he's off of the leaders. Does he count as the main villain? I don't think so.
No. I think it's Rosa. I'll count Rosa Klebb. So you got Doctor No, Rosa Klebb, Goldfinger, Largo. Who's the film? Oh yeah, Blofeld in You Only Live Twice. Yeah. No, it's going to be weird. Do I rank Blofeld twice? Because there's the Donald Pleasant.
Because they're two different actors, I would rank them twice, but it's up to you.
Yeah, there's Donald Pleasance, of course, and then of course Diamonds Are Forever, Charles Gray. So what's that? 6 villains. So I think at the bottom for me, it has to be Largo. I mean, Adolfo Celli, he gives a good performance, but Largo is just a shit villain. I'm sorry, you know, he's just this old man. There's nothing threatening about him. Yeah, he's just this old man with an eye patch. Nothing threatening about him at all. I just think coming after Goldfinger, he's just such a lame villain. He's just such a lame, disappointing villain. I'd definitely say if I did a top 10 worst, he'd probably be in there. It's just, there's nothing to him. I mean, he's just this old dude, he's not a threat to Bond, and his death is very anticlimactic. The only scene that he was threatening in is when he was going to torture Domino, but that's it. He just, there's nothing to him. There's really nothing to his character.
Great.
So he would be at the bottom. Yeah, sorry, Alan, but yeah, he'd be at the bottom. Then afterwards, I'd probably have to say Donald Pleasance as Blofeld.
You only live twice, Mr. Bond. Yeah.
I mean, I love Blofeld as a character, but I just think Donald Pleasance was kind of disappointing, in my opinion.
He spoke in that Weasley voice, and he wasn't on screen very long as well, which was a disappointment to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was just he was disappointing. As Blofeld, like, he just sort of got that Weasley voice. He wasn't that threatening. So it would be him at number 5. At number 4, well, I mean, we got Doctor No, we got Rose Klebb, Goldfinger. Probably Charles Gray's Blofeld. But saying that, I do really like Charles Gray's Blofeld. I mean, he's got a lot of villainous charm to him, and he's quite charming as Blofeld. He's like, "Oh, good evening, Mr. Bond," and he's
even
like,
oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, putting him in drag, that was a bit silly, but he does have a lot of villainous charm to him, and I do really enjoy watching him as Blofeld. Like, that scene where he's where Bond's fucking around with him in that crane. He's like, up, damn you. Yeah,
That's the one good part about the finale for Diamonds Are Forever. The rest of it is a huge anticlimax for me.
Yeah. No, but I do quite like Charles Gray's Blofeld. Like I said, very villainous charm, and I think he works well with Bond. And I kind of like the idea of these sort of all these guys getting plastic surgery to look like Blofeld. There's that interesting scene where Bond shoots the other Blofeld and he's fake, but yeah, it'd be him. Yeah. And then so him at number 4, I think that is. Number 3 would be Dr. No.
No, yeah.
I mean, I think Dr. No is a really great villain, but I think the reason why he's not higher is because he doesn't get enough screen time. He's only in the last 15 to 20 minutes of the film. But
he's on
the screen.
Really.
Yeah. but for the scenes he's in, I think he's a really great villain. He's got a lot of great, villainous presence. Like that scene where he crushes the, I think it's that idol thing, that Buddha that he crushes with his hand. It's quite good. And I love the line he says to Bond. He's like, I was wrong about you, Mr. Bond. You were in fact a stupid policeman, who I have no further use of, like that. That was quite funny. And I do like the ending where he fights Bond, and I like the sort of hands that he has, the sort of claw hand things. The metal hands. That's quite cool.
I mean, I think it's what you mentioned while we're on the subject of Doctor No. Just very briefly, there are rumors circulating about Rami Malek as Safin potentially being Doctor No. I would kind of hope not, but it's hard to tell at this stage, to be honest. Even with the trailer, you can't really tell. But I hope that Safin is his own original character.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. Yeah. And yeah, so after that, at number 2 would be Rosa Klebb. Great Bond villain. I love the spiked shoe, and I mean she's just a bit of a bitch as well. Like, you're not here to ask questions. It's like but I think she's a great character. I mean, the way she sort of manipulates Natalia, and we find out she's lesbian, I guess, and then the way she becomes the number 2 inspector.
You're a fine looking girl.
Yeah, that was great, and I think she has a lot of great scenes in the end where she fights Connery as Bond. That's great, and then of course number 1. I mean, it's obvious, but he has to be number 1. Yeah. No, I was talking about Largo from Never Say Never Again. No, I'm only joking. No, yeah. Of course, Goldfinger. I mean, he has to be at number 1. Gert Frobe is he's just so good as Goldfinger. Just so many great scenes that or do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And
even that later scene alone. But I mean, there's so many great moments. Like the first time Bond talks to him over the microphone, you can see the change in his facial expressions, and when he breaks the pencil as well. That's quite a funny moment. But you got so many brilliant moments in that film.
Yeah, I mean, he's just such a great character as well. Like, he's got a great name, Art Goldfinger, and I love his whole plan and everything about, irradiating Fort Knox, and he's got a great henchman in Odd Job, and I love that scene where Bond is like playing golf with him, and and then Bond is talking to him later on. He's like, "Oh, many men have tried to interfere with my affairs, Odd Job," and then Odd Job throws the hat at the statue. That's just great. But yeah, I mean, that's how I'd rank the Connery Bond villains, but yeah.
Nice. To be fair, I'd probably rank them exactly the same. Bottom was Largo, then Donald Pleasance as Blofeld, then Charles Gray as Blofeld, then Dr. No, then Rosa Klebb, then Goldfinger. Yeah, pretty much the same. I agree with you. Even though I probably I'm not as big a fan of Charles Gray as you are. It's not really his fault, but I mean, just when he was put in drag, I didn't really think that was entirely necessary. But his performance is fine, But yeah,
I think he was a good Blofeld. It's just the fact that he was put in drag, but that wasn't really his fault. But I think he was a good Blofeld. But yeah.
As we're sort of on the subject of villains, let's go through some of the villains. We've talked about the Connery ones, so let's go on to the Lazenby villains. Well, villain.
the laser beam villains.
The George Lazenby era is kind of a polarizing one at that, but Telly Savalas is Blofeld. I mean, I really like the guy, and I think of the 3 earlier Blofelds, he's probably the best. Even though he's American, I still think he's got a sort of devilish charm about him, and he's quite creepy, especially when you hear his voice over the speakers when the girls are being fed the virus, so to speak.
It'll take more than cutting off your earlobes, Blofeld.
Yeah, it's like, we'll be cutting off your earlobes, Blofeld. Oh, God, yeah. But what do you think of Telly Savalas as Blofeld?
I think he's really good. I mean, he's not my favorite out of the classic Blofelds. I think that probably, yeah. I mean, it's just me, but it's probably Charles Gray because I just really love his performance. But I really like Telly Savalas as Blofeld. He's very sinister in the role. I mean, I really like his plot. I mean, funnily enough, George Lazenby was talking about that recently. The whole COVID-19 thing. It's
Yeah,
like it's like the plot of Blofeld. You know, he wants to release a virus into the world. It's like, you know, we're
yeah,
living through Her Majesty's Secret Service right now. But
yeah.
yeah,
Just without the whole story.
yeah. No, but I mean, I thought he was very villainous and very charming. And I like the scene where he's talking to Bond and he's like,
And
"Oh, you know,
that's one thing where they changed. They're like, he didn't die. We thought he did at the end after the bobsleigh fight, but he's injured in the car, and then Irma Bunt drives past and shoots Tracy. So, as far as we're concerned, Blofeld pretty much survived at the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
yeah." And no, I mean, he's got some great scenes. Like I like the bit where he's talking to Bond. He's like, "Oh, you know, he's like, oh, Sir Hilary Bray wouldn't seduce attractive young women and all that stuff." And it's kind of funny later on when he's trying to seduce Tracy. He's like, "Oh, you could be, you know, my wife," and all this. It's kind of interesting, but
Yeah, when he has Tracy captured and they're on their way to sort of like storm the Piz Gloria. Yeah, that's a great moment. But I love the bobsleigh fight at the end of the film with him and Lazenby. It's a very good fight actually, and it's quite an amazing attempt that they did that. I mean, the only thing that came close to that was I think For Your Eyes Only when Roger Moore had that ski action scene, and then he fell into that bobsleigh track. I guess you could say, but I mean, he
yeah,
didn't go on the same fight, but the actual bobsleigh fight in On Her Majesty's Secret Service is great. I think it's one of the most impressive climaxes to a film. I mean, that whole Piz Gloria sequence is brilliant, and Blofeld's lair in the film is just fantastic. I mean, Telly Savalas had an amazing lair for Blofeld, probably the
yeah.
best.
Actually, I was going to say after we talk about the villains, we could talk a bit about our favorite action scenes from the Bond series. But
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I've got time, so.
yeah. No, but I mean, no, I thought he was a really good Blofeld. I like the fact that Blofeld's a bit more physical. Like he gets in that fight with Lazenby. I couldn't see Donald Pleasance Blofeld getting into a fight with Connery or something like
Funny,
that.
right? When he got the gun out in You Only Live Twice, one of those ninjas threw those little things, like those little star things at his hand, and he dropped it. Like he's a weasel. Donald Pleasance is Blofeld. He's not tough. He's not tough enough. That's the problem. But yeah, we're both agreed on Telly Savalas, so that's good. I mean, moving into the Roger Moore era, the villains are quite varied. I think. Obviously, Dr. Kananga, played by Yaphet Kotto, I think he's a great villain. I mean, he's not a villain that anyone talks about, which is a problem. I don't know why. No one seems to talk about him that much. I mean, obviously, I know that you really like him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Calvin Dyson really likes him as well. But I think Kananga he's possibly my favorite Bond villain, or definitely one of them, because I just think Yaphet Kotto, I mean, he's a great actor, and anything I've seen him in, he's always given it his all. But what I really like about his villain is how threatening he is. Like, you know, you see he sort of has this control over Solitaire. There's that great scene where he's like, oh, the code at the back of Mr. Bond's watch, you know, and he like reads it out, and then she says, "Oh, you're telling the truth." And then later on, when he's talking to Solitaire, he's like, "You know, you had all the chances. You weren't even close." And you know, he's like, "You knew that." And, you know, he's like, "You know, one day, you know, I was gonna make love to you, you know, like, and take your power away. You know, when I saw, you know, fit, you knew that." And you know, you see, like
he's a real bastard.
Yeah, and he's a real manipulative prick. Like, you know, she's basically his tarot card reader. She reads the future, but you know, Kananga is he's just such a he's such a great villain. He's so intimidating. Like, I love the bit where he's talking to Bond, when Bond gets the, he's talking to Kananga at the end, and he's like, Bond and Miss Solitaire. I mean, like, oh, she was a great card reader. She was specifically great at predicting death, and I like the fact his villain is quite physical as well. Like at the end, he gets a knife and he starts cutting Bond's arm, and then Bond manages to get free of the rope by cutting it with that magnetic watch, and then you got Kananga try to attack him with this knife. So I like the fact that his villain isn't just some guy sitting behind a desk, pressing some buttons. He actually,
yeah, he's like a drug lord, isn't he? He's a bit of he's a bit of a psycho as well. I mean, the fact that he's using solitaire to predict the future, so he can sort of alter it to his course, is interesting. And the fact that, I mean, the only thing I don't really understand is the whole Mr. Big thing. Like the fact that he's disguising himself as Mr. Big to be his own distributor. Like, what's the point? You may as well just do it all himself. There's no reason for that. But and the makeup doesn't exactly look convincing, I'll say. But the villain himself is very good. I have no problem with the villain. I mean, the way he mistreats Solitaire as well. I mean, she's another Bond girl who's a bit trapped as well. And Jane Seymour is just absolutely beautiful. But but also the henchmen are great as well. But I mean, we may talk about the henchmen a bit later. But as for Christopher Lee, Scaramanga, and the Man with the Golden Gun, I mean, what is there to say, really? I mean, Christopher Lee is just a delight. I mean, rest in peace, Sir Christopher Lee. But Scaramanga is a terrific villain and probably the best, one of the best villains of the series, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, one thing I will say that's great about the Roger Moore era is that, for the most part, it is very strong villains. Like you got Kananga, Scaramanga, Hugo Drax, Kamal Khan, Max Zorin. So, and I think Scaramanga is a great villain. And what I really like about Scaramanga is that he's almost the opposite side of the coin to Bond. He's an assassin as well, and he's he's a bad guy, obviously. But what's interesting about him is he's very similar to Bond. There's that bit at the end, where they're having dinner. He's like, "Oh, to us, Mr. Bond, we are the best," and and I like the bit where Bond's like, "Oh, there's a useful four-letter word for you, and you're full of it," and and the way Scaramanga says, "Oh, you enjoy killing as much as I do, Mr. Bond. You do it for Her Majesty's government. I do it for contracts." And I like the fact that his villain's kind of obsessed with Bond. Like he's got these mannequins of Bond in his home, and he's like, and he really wants the luxury of killing Bond, because Bond is a famous agent. And he really wants that luxury of killing him. Like, he wants to be the guy who said, "Oh, I killed James Bond." And I love his, lair, and I love the fact that he goes around with this golden gun. I like the fact as well he's kind of a couple of steps ahead of Bond. Like, there's that bit where Bond goes in and pretends he's Scaramanga, and then Scaramanga's already there, and he, kills High Fat, which is a pretty tense scene, like when he pulls the gun out and he's just like, "Oh, there's no problem," and he just shoots High Fat in cold blood. He doesn't give a shit. He's like, "Oh, he always did enjoy that museum. He always did enjoy that mausoleum. Put him in it." Yeah.
I also love the design of the gun itself. The golden gun it's quite basic, but it actually looks really cool and it looks quite stylish, and it suits Christopher Lee rather well. The only thing I will say is perhaps his death is a bit anticlimactic, but generally, his moments are great.
I actually have to disagree. I really like Scaramanga's death. I think it's really clever that Bond disguised himself as the mannequin, and he turns around and just shoots him. And I love the reaction on Scaramanga's face, and then he drops dead. I just think that's a great moment. But yeah. I love his House as well. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. that's my only niggle is that it just happens a bit too quickly for my liking. But it's still a good film, and I mean I mean, Scaramanga as a character is still fantastic. But it's just it'll be fair enough. We'll agree to disagree on that.
But I do like Scaramanga Funhouse. But no,
Yeah.
I really like Scaramanga's death, but that's just me. I just think it's well done. I just think it's clever that Bond disguises himself as the mannequin, and then I just love the look on Scaramanga's face when Bond kills him. Like he's
Yeah.
kind of shocked that Bond killed him, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Although sadly, in the next film, the villain was not to be nearly up to the standard. Stromberg. I mean, particularly Stromberg's death. The way, I mean, it's cool the way Bond shoots him. Don't get me wrong, but the reactions on his face are just over the top.
yeah.
And just
Yeah.
the way he to his own dinner plate, it's a bit abrupt. I mean, Kurt Jurgens gives a good performance for me, but the villain itself is, I mean, let's face it, he's just a Blofeld ripoff.
Yeah.
There's no other reason for that, really. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kurt Jurgens gives a really good performance as Stromberg, but I just think the problem with Stromberg is, like you said, he's just Blofeld 2.0, and that's kind of the shame, because I mean they originally wanted Blofeld in The Spy Loved Me, but of course Kevin McClory and the rights issues, and I mean I don't think Stromberg's the worst Bond villain. I mean there are definitely a lot worse Bond villains out there than Stromberg, but I just
He's
think
a
the problem. Yeah, I just think the problem with Stromberg is he doesn't really get much to do. He just kind of sits in his
yeah.
underwater palace and presses a few
Yeah.
buttons, and he lets
I mean,
all
that's
his villains.
I think that's what he hopes to achieve. Because it's outrageous the fact that he wants to, he wants to start a new life, under the sea. I mean, okay, it's kind of an interesting idea, but I mean, did he really think it was going to work? But whatever. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that The Spy Who Loved Me is still an amazing film, but just the villain and his plan is a bit ludicrous. I mean, Drax. I mean, I hate to say this, but Drax's plan of finding another world out in space is a bit more plausible. Yeah.
Well, no, well, his plan was the exact same, except what he was going to do is he was going to poison the people on Earth, and then once everybody had died, brought all the people that he had on the space station back down to Earth and create a new world, which makes more sense. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think Stromberg, he does have a few good lines. I will say, like I like the bit, where the guy's getting the helicopter and he blows it up, and he's like, "Oh, take the money out of their accounts. Tell the family that the funeral was at sea." That was quite funny. Um, and
Yeah.
and I do like the fact that there's that bit where he finds out the woman betrayed him, and he like sends her into his shark tank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he does have some good lines. I like the bit where he's talking to Jaws, and he's like, "Oh, the man and the woman, was it the same man and the woman from earlier?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, let him get ashore, and then kill them." But yeah, he's just not the best villain. I do think his death is a bit. It's just not. It's a little bit anticlimactic. He's like, "Oh, it's like, oh, you shot your bolt, Stromberg. Now it's my turn." And then he shoots him, and like you said, it's a little bit. His death's a little bit anticlimactic and a bit over the top. I mean, I kind of agree with Calvin Dyson. It would have been cool if it would have been better if he had had a fight with Bond, and then he fell into his shark tank or whatever. That would have been interesting. That would have been a better way for him to go. But yeah, he's not the best villain, but he's definitely not the worst either. He's just kind of, like you said, he's a bit of a nothing villain. He just sort of lets his henchmen do the work for him, like Jaws and that other guy, the short, bald guy. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can say, I mean, even though people are very divided on Moonraker, one thing that generally tends to get praised a lot is the villain, and that's Hugo Drax. I mean, who I suppose essentially is kind of the same in a way, but slightly more developed, I would say. And his motivations are a bit clearer from my point of view. But I've always liked Drax, and I've always liked the way he asserts his authority. And he's got some great lines, like he says, "Take good care of Mr. Bond. See that some harm comes to him." which is good. I mean, his death could be a bit silly. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, they send him out into space, but you know, I like Drax as a character, and I think he's very menacing. And you know, I think Michael Lonsdale plays the role very well. I mean, is he one of the best villains? Potentially, you know, potentially. He's quite serious. He's quite stern. I mean, I like him.
Yeah.
I like him.
And I agree. I think he is one of the best Bond villains. I mean, he has a lot of great lines, like oh, could I press you to a cucumber sandwich? And and there's so many great scenes. Like I love the scene where he's out shooting pheasants with Bonds, and there's and there's that sniper in the tree, and then Bond shoots the sniper out of the tree, and he says, and he says, "Oh, you missed Mr. Bond," and then Bond says, "Oh, did I?" Like you said, such good sports, and I love the speeches he gives. Like he's like, "Oh, man looked into the heavens, and he decided that he would go out there or whatever." And then, and I do like some of the lines he has with Roger Moore. Like there's that bit where Bond, he's just being like attacked by the snake, and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Bond, you defy all my attempts to plan an amusing death for you." And he's like, "Why did you?" Kill the snake or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, well, I discovered he had a crush on me." He just does some great bits. Oh, desolated Mr. Bond, heartbroken Mr. Drax. Take a giant step for mankind. Michael Lonsdale's very dry and yeah, Michael Lonsdale's very dry and very serious, and he works well, and he's got some of the best lines of any villain. But yeah, I think Drax is a great villain.
The most serious part of Moonraker. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I do like the bit where he gets the Jaws, just like, Jaws, you obey me. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. But moving swiftly forward, obviously, I don't want this to drag out too long, but we'll just sort of go through the rest of them as brisk as we can. We've talked about briefly about For Your Eyes Only already, but Kristatos is a terrible villain. I mean, I'm sorry to people that love For Your Eyes Only. I've just never been a fan of Kristatos. He just doesn't do anything. His character is just nothing. He's just absolutely nothing. I don't know. I just didn't really care for him. Why didn't they have Gonzalez, whatever his name was, as the villain? The one that killed Melina's parents, he should have been the villain, but I think he gets killed then in the next scene. So, yeah. I don't know. I just Kristatos didn't work for me, despite Julian Glover's best efforts. I mean, Jack, what are your sort of thoughts on Kristatos?
Hold on, I just need to get something. Could you talk briefly?
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, Kristatos, and he's introduced quite late into the film. I think, like, within the first 45 minutes or something. It takes too long for him to come on screen, and Kristatos, again, he's just such a boring character. Julian Glover performs the part well and whatnot, but he's underwritten. I think that's the biggest issue, I would say. And I don't think him and Roger Moore have a lot of on-screen chemistry, nor does he with Carol Bouquet, who plays Melina. Yeah, it's just nothing really for me. And I mean, most of the sort of villains in For Your Eyes Only are kind of forgettable, which is a sort of a problem for me. But I know that Jack's not particularly a big fan of him. I mean, For Your Eyes Only is my least favorite Roger Moore film, which I know will shock some people, but I'm sorry, I could just never. I don't see what the fuss is about with that film. I just never get into it. There are some good bits in it, don't get me wrong, but I've never seen it as like the best Roger Moore film at all. Like, I don't know what the hype's about personally, but there we go. I mean, is Kristatos the worst villain? No, but he's not great. If I did a top 10 worst villains ranking of the Bond series, he would be on the list. He would be on there somewhere. Not at the very top, of course. No, I mean, that would probably go to Die Another Day with Gustav Graves. But, yeah, Kristatos is a very disappointing Bond villain. Just very, very bland, very sort of nothing. And, I hope that Jack comes back soon because.
I'm here.
Oh, great, good, yeah. So if you want to just give you a brief summary on Kristatos, and then we'll go on to Kamal Khan.
Well, I mean, I pretty much agree with you. I think Julian Glover's a great actor. I think he's great in Doctor Who and Star Wars and Indiana Jones. But I just think Kristatos, he's a nothing villain. I mean, he really is a nothing villain. I mean, they tried it, they introduced him like halfway through the movie or just under halfway through the movie, and they set him up as like Bond's friend initially, and then, oh, shock, turns out he's actually the bad guy. He's been telling Bond that Columbo's the bad guy, but in fact he's the bad guy. And it's just like you said, there's nothing to him. He's a shit villain. I mean, there's no personality really to him. There is that one scene where he drags Bond and Melina through the coral reef on the ship. That was good, but there's nothing to him, and his death is so anticlimactic. He doesn't even get killed by Bond. Columbo kills him, and he's just a crap villain. I mean, like you said, not the worst, but definitely not one of the best. I mean, it's not Julian Glover's fault. It's the underwritten character that he's given. His character just has no personality, really. And I mean, give me Drax, give me, most other Bond villains any day, because Kristatos doesn't really do anything. But yeah, that's sort of my 2 cents on it. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. As for Kamal Khan in Octopussy, well, I do think he's better. He's definitely a lot better than Kristatos. He's a good villain. I wouldn't say he's the best of the series, but he's very good. I like the way he says, "Oh, Octopussy, Octopussy." And he has some good lines, like how Mr. Bond is a rare species, soon to be extinct. You have a nasty habit of surviving. He's generally quite threatening. He's not physically that imposing, but he definitely plays his part in the film well, and I think he's better written than Kristatos, I would say. But yeah, it's interesting how in the climax he doesn't last particularly as long as his henchman Gobinda, who who is the one that has the final fight with Bond on the plane.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think Kamal Khan is a good villain. He's not my favorite, but I do think he does get, like you said, some very good lines. Like, oh, you have a nasty habit of surviving. Oh, ever heard about the fittest? Stuff like that. The bit where he's eating the sheep's head's quite interesting. And it's kind of interesting as well how his character portrays Octopussy. I mean, initially he's working for Octopussy, and then it turns out he's working with the Russian guy. I guess we sort of should mention him as well. What's his name? Is it General Orlov?
Yeah. Orlov, yeah. I think that's his name, yeah, Orlov.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Kamal Khan's a pretty good villain, and I like the ending, it was like, Octopussy. Octopussy, That's quite funny, But I think he's a good villain, yeah.
I think we both agree that Max Zorin is probably a better villain. I mean, Christopher Walken brings his own personality to the role, and I mean, there is that scene where he murders all his workers. I mean, which is quite a psychopathic scene. Very cold. I mean, I think Roger Moore was quite easy about that scene, but it was generally quite interesting to see a villain who was basically a psycho, like just a complete slimeball. Like literally, he was nuts. And I think that was what was kind of appealing about Zorin in A View to a Kill, for me personally, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think Christopher Walken was really good as Max Zorin. And I really like the fact that I think this is the first time in a Bond film where you really get a villain that's crazy, like unhinged psychopath. Like you said, that whole scene where he's shooting all the workers in the mine. I think that's a great scene, and it just shows you how much of a bastard he is. And I like the stuff with him in Mayday as well. I like the stuff with him in Mayday. Like, Mayday thinks that Zorin loves her, and then of course he betrays them at the end. Like, I like that bit where the guy says, "Oh, but Mayday, my man," and Zorin's like, "Yeah, convenient coincidence." It's like, but Mr. Zorin knows men are loyal to you, and Zorin just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah. Funny, he doesn't give a crap that Mayday beds Bond as well when I mean, he may as well have just said, "Go, go, fuck him, go." He may as well because yeah, he didn't care when she went in and he said, "Oh, I've been waiting for you to take care of me personally." But no, he was a very good villain, and I like the way he died, and in the fact that when after the fight on the Golden Gate Bridge, when he looks up at Carl Mortner, and then he laughs, and then he just falls off the bridge that way, which is interesting. But yeah,
I like the fact that his. Oh, sorry to interrupt. I like the fact that his villain's like a good physical villain as well. Like when he gets the axe out and he's fighting Bond on the bridge, he's no Dominic Green sissy. He's like with an axe,
Yeah.
I mean, he could handle himself as a villain physically, and he is a match for Bond, and I think he works very well in the film. And I think if I did a top 10, he'd probably be in my top 10 best Bond villains. But yeah,
no, he was definitely a very solid villain. Sadly, in the Timothy Dalton era, the villains weren't so solid. I mean, I didn't actually mind Sanchez that much. I thought he was pretty good, but the villains in the Living Daylights were, they were a bit poor, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the standout one is probably Georgy Koskov. I mean, Sharon Crab or whatever. Like, I mean, he gives a good performance, but I just think the character Georgy Koskov. I mean, he's just too jovial to be a Bond villain. Like that scene where he kisses Bond. Oh, James, mwah, mwah. Like
I told you.
Yeah,
he's a bit flamboyant. I think. Well, we're not flamboyant. Like say, yeah, jovial. Yeah, for some reason he's randomly quite jovial. Yeah.
Yeah, and I never really found him that intimidating as a villain or that interesting as a villain.
And there's that scene where he says to Kara, we're going to sort you out or whatever, and then he slaps him across the face, and then he's like, we're going to put you in the bush. Oh, they're quite good, and he tries to assert his authority, but it doesn't come across very well. It's, Timothy Dalton would never be intimidated by him, and even says to him, we have a 4-letter word, Yorgi. You're full of it, or something like that. And it doesn't really, it doesn't work. But
I always thought that line was a reference to the Man with the Golden Gun, because in that Roger Moore says, use a 4-letter word.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, also just as bad, Brad Whitaker, played by Joe Don Baker. He's not very good either. He's just the problem is he's just a generic arms dealer. There's not much about his character, and he doesn't do anything in the movie anyway. Like he's in a couple of bits, and then towards the end, him and Bond have a fight. But his death is anticlimactic. He gets knocked over by his own display or whatever. Like when he's playing with his toy soldiers or something. It's just it's the character's underwritten, which is a real shame. But I mean, Necros as the henchman, he's the best of the three. Even though he hasn't got much character, he's definitely, he's in it the most, and he's the most engaging to watch, which is kind of sad, really, when the henchman kind of outshines the villain. But oh well, it did in this case.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Whitaker is, like, Joe Don Baker gives a good performance, but he's just kind of, I'm a generic American arms dealer. We're gonna kill James Bond. Da, da, da. Like, Yorkie Koskov and all this stuff. Like it's just.
Where's that opium? Smoke.
I mean, he's just. I think he's a better villain than Koskov because at least he's a bit more intimidating. But he's like you said, and he's not jovial, but he's just like you said, generic arms dealer. He's not really that engaging. And to be honest, I think he's better. Joe Don Baker is better as the villain than he is as the failed comic relief Jack Wade in the GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies. Yeah. But
and then for License to Kill, Sanchez. He's grown on me a little bit, I must say. I think Robert Davi gives a good performance. I think he's quite scary at times, and he does have a certain certain aggressiveness to him. But I do think that the character could have been more developed. Like he is just like this random sort of Mexican drug lord. There's nothing much to him, but at least the performance is decent. I'll give it that. And I like Benicio del Toro as his henchman Dario. He's quite creepy. But yeah, there's not. He's not hardly the most impressive villain of the series. What do you think of Sanchez?
I think Davi gives a good performance, but I just think Sanchez is a bit of a one-note villain. I mean, I just apart from the scene where he whips Loopy, I never really was that intimidated by Robert Davi as Sanchez. Like I said, he's just a bit one note. He's just kind of like this generic Mexican drug dealer that Bond has to take down for killing Felix. I mean, there's an interesting thing about him. He cares more about loyalty than he does money. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just find Davi's performance a little bit weird in the film. Like he just.
I also think what's weird is, the scene when he's whipping Looping, that's a little uncomfortable, really. It's kind of a bit too much, to be honest. I mean, Loopy's, I mean, you can see her performance. She's like crying because he's abusing her. Like, did he promise you his heart? I mean, it's too much for a Bond film. I mean, bless her. I mean, I know Felisa Soto's acting was terrible, but Jesus Christ, didn't need to do that to her. But, yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting. Like Davies, like you say, he cares more about loyalty than money, but he's so easily deceived by Bond, by Timothy Dalton's Bond. And I mean, there is that good moment where he says, "Oh, I help people with problems. I'm more of a problem eliminator," and he like laughs along with him, but he sort of tries to, gain his trust and whatnot, which is interesting.
I just think Sanchez, there's just not really much to his villain. He's just kind of a generic Mexican drugs dealer. When you want a Bond villain, you want a Bond villain that has a bit more to them. Like like when you go to see a Bond film, you kind of want a Bond villain that wants to take over the world, not Mexican Scarface ripoff.
I understand why like Bond was after him. There was a very personal goal to achieve, but I mean. It felt like Sanchez was underwritten. Like Bond was written well, obviously. From the more emotional point of view, but at least with the Craig movies, they've written the villains from a more personal angle, and they've connected the villains a bit more cleverly, and it makes a bit more sense. And also Sanchez, his death is a bit too grisly. I think his death is a bit too violent.
Yeah, and not only that, but like Robert Davi as Sanchez, like. There's only really one or two scenes where he gets angry. The rest of the film, when he's talking to Bond, he's a little bit friendly. I don't know, but he's just a bit too friendly. I think like there's never really any scenes where he gets pissed off, apart from maybe one or two. Most of the film, he's just talking casually to Bond, like he was just another one of his mates.
Yes. But yeah, that's the Dalton era. There's only two films, and all the villains aren't particularly great, which is a shame. In the Brosnan era, however, oh god, it seems to be a bit worse for wear. I mean, in GoldenEye, the villains are good, but the other three movies, not so much.
Oh god, yeah.
I mean, GoldenEye, we have a sort of team of villains, which is nice. I mean, I like Sean Bean as Alec Trevelyan. I think he's good, actually. Probably the best villain of the Brosnan era by default. I mean, I suppose I see your point about them having a lack of chemistry. I do think Brosnan underplays the moment of the reveal when Alec is revealed as the villain. Brosnan underplays that, and he could do a lot better with that.
And not only that, but it's just in the pre-opening, when they're talking to each other, he's like, "Oh, buy me a pint, James." There's just no chemistry between them. Like Brosnan doesn't really seem like he's been friends with this guy that long as Alec Trevelyan. But
I can see that point. I think also General Oromov is underused. He's not really in it very much. I mean, I quite like Xenia. Xenia's interesting, although it's just slightly over the top. I think
I
Boris
think
is all right. I know you don't like Boris, but I think Boris is okay actually.
yeah,
He is a
I'm
bit
surprised because you used to not like him that much, but yeah,
no, I mean, he's a bit overacted. But
yeah.
I kind of think he's all right. He's not in the film that much. He's not in it as much as I remember.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I just find him really annoying. Like, I mean, Alan Cumming just really is over the. I'm invincible, and
yeah,
he's just a terrible character. I'm sorry, but Alan Cumming just really chews up the scenery. And Boris, I mean, he's a pointless character. He's just this, you know, random computer hacker, and I just think he's a shit villain. I mean, he's just so. I mean, he was unnecessary. I mean, you already had Xenia, Oromov, Alec Trevelyan. That was enough. I just think Boris is just shit. I mean, if I did a top 10 worst Bond villains, he'd be in there. He's just there's nothing to him. I mean, he's just this annoying. I am invincible. It's just you know. I think Alan Cumming just completely tears the scenery. He's an annoying character. He's just really annoying character. I just oh, give me the access codes, and
yeah.
he's just over the top. But yeah,
As I say, yeah, I do agree from a certain point of view. I think he is overacted, but I don't hate the character as much as you do. I mean, I wouldn't call him. I wouldn't go as far as calling him one of the worst villains. I mean, I think that's a bit harsh, but he's certainly. I can tolerate him because he's in it very much. But I understand your point. It is over the top, and the catchphrase, "I am invincible." I suppose they didn't need to say that too much, but I don't think it's that bad personally. But
I just, I just,
well,
I just think, he's really in your face, annoying. Like, give me the access codes, Natalia. You sit on it, but you don't take it with you. He's just, I don't know. He's just, I just can't stand him. He's just. That's the one thing. I mean, I do like GoldenEye, but I just find Boris a really annoying character. Like, and he's not intimidating either. I mean, he's not intimidating at all. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, obviously, the other three movies. Oh well, all the villains are pretty terrible, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I'm not a fan of Elliot Carver, and his plan is ridiculous. I mean, but again, not Jonathan Pryce's fault. And his death is ridiculous. I don't like Renard and Electra either, and I really don't like Gustav Graves and Zhao and Miranda from Die Another Day. They're all pretty crap, to be honest. Let's just be fair there. But God. Hmm.
I agree. I mean, Elliot Carver is just one of the worst Bond villains. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just letting you speak.
Sorry about that. So I'm just getting something.
Okay. We may call it a night soon, I think. We've been on for over 3 hours, which is quite something. So,
Hey, no, I'm
yeah.
back. I'm back. Sorry. No, yeah, I think Elliot Carver is one of the worst Bond villains. Jonathan Pryce gives a good performance, but I mean, Elliot Carver, like you said, his plot is absolute bollocks. He's gonna cause World War III between Britain and China to get broadcasting rights. Seriously, I mean, that'll be like me dropping a nuclear bomb on America so I can buy out CNN. It's just fucking, it's just stupid. It's a really stupid plan, and he's not intimidating as a villain. He's just this media mogul, Rupert Murdoch ripoff, and
Yeah.
he's just, I mean,
God.
his death is just ridiculous.
His death is laughable when Brosnan pulls him up against the control panel and says, "I may have some breaking news for you, Elliot. You forgot the first rule of mass media: give the people what they want." And he literally spends the next 2 minutes standing there. He doesn't bother to move out of the way, which it makes me laugh how bad it is. Oh,
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he had potential to be a great villain because you got a great actor like Jonathan Pryce, but he's just a Rupert Murdoch ripoff. He's just this media mogul. And his plan is just bollocks. He's going to cause this world war so he can have he could get broadcasting rights. Like it's just stupid. And
No.
God, and the whole stuff with Paris as well. You killed Paris. It's like, oh, well, you signed a death warrant, Mr. Bond, when you asked her to betray me. It's like they're trying to make something emotional there, and it doesn't work. And
Yeah.
I mean, he
Try and
definitely
do
been
that
the top
with all of
10
Brosnan's
worst
Bond
villains.
girls, don't they? With all of Brosnan's Bond girls, they always try and do like some kind of emotional angle. Well, except Natalia, but in the other three movies, they tend to, like Miranda, Electra, Paris. They'll try and approach it from an emotional point of view. Like Bond has affection for them and cares for them. Like
It just doesn't work.
Yeah, not when Brosnan wants to necrophile them. No.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about the other crap villains, I mean, Renard, I mean, Robert Carlyle, great actor,
He
but
sees nothing.
yeah, his villain concept is just bollocks. This bullet that's going into his brain that's killing him, but keeping him alive. So I'm sorry, that's a load of horse shit.
Yeah,
There's no way that this bullet could go through your brain and slowly
logic.
kill you. Slowly kill you, keeping you alive, but also making you stronger. Like what? The fuck does that work? And his villain is just nothing. Like like you said, he feels nothing. And I mean that scene is terrible when he's like, I feel nothing, and the whole love story with Elektra is just it's shit. And Elektra King, I mean, I could see what they were trying to do with her, but she doesn't work as a villain. She's just Sophie Marceau's acting like oh, the oil is mine. It's in my family. It's thicker than blood.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
but I think we agree. Worse than Renard and Electra are the fucking villains of Die Another Day. Oh God, the fourth and final Brosnan film. Oh dear.
Thankfully, it was the final one.
I mean, Gustav Graves is awful. He's just terrible, and so is Zhao and Miranda. I suppose Miranda counts as a villain, but I'm just they were just awful. There's nothing else to say.
Yeah, Gustav Graves. I mean, Toby Stevens. I mean, I'm sure he's a good actor and other things, but he just sucked as Gustav Graves. He really. I mean, what annoyed me about him as well was that fucking smug little smile he had throughout the film. That sort of smug smile that Gustav Graves has. It's just really,
Yeah, you know what else is stupid is like towards the end. I mean, this is a decision in the script, of course, but the fact that he puts on this damn Terminator suit and starts using his electrical Sith powers on Bond, in the plane. I mean, so laughably bad. Yeah. And Zhao, oh God, Zhao, who never bothers to get rid of the diamonds in his face. I mean,
how's that for a punchline?
Yeah, I have missed your sparkling personality. And then, revealing Miranda to be a villain as well. Big whoop.
Gives a shit, yeah.
But,
the villain. The less said about those villains, the better. I think.
Yeah, let's move on a little bit because I think we've been on for actually over 3 hours now. So I think we'll call it a day soon. But we'll talk about the rest of the villains and then maybe give some brief thoughts on a couple of things, maybe like the music and titles and songs. I mean, we don't have to go into detail.
Maybe some of our favorite action scenes, and then wrap it up.
And then we'll wrap it up, because it's getting on a bit. So just to talk briefly about the Craig era. Obviously, No Time to Die is yet to come out. We can't talk about Safin really yet because we haven't seen the film. And I mean, Blofeld's coming back, so that should be good. But I was very impressed with Le Chiffre from Casino Royale. Le Chiffre was a great villain. I love the fact that he's got like a scar under his eye, like they constantly reference him like weeping blood, which I think is quite a clever idea. He's generally quite threatening, considering he's a guy who doesn't normally raise his voice. Only once or twice does he ever raise his voice, and he kind of he kind of mumbles a lot of his lines, but he's a really creepy looking guy, and him and Bond have kind of a battle of the mind because when they're playing poker in the casino, I mean the scene is very effectively edited. The way it's done through close-ups, you can see Bond and Le Chiffre trying to read each other, which is interesting. And then obviously there's that torture scene where he literally whacks his balls. It's a really intense scene and it's done so well. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen does a great job. I mean, what do you think of Le Chiffre?
I think the Chief's a really great villain, and I think what's interesting about his villain is that he's kind of he's in trouble himself. He's got all this money, and he's lost it, and those African guys or whatever are trying to kill him. There's that scene where he's like, "Oh, I'll get the money. I'll get the money." When Mr. White comes in, and there's that bit where he's with his girlfriend, and they're about to cut off his girlfriend's arm, and it's interesting that his villain isn't like sort of typical. Oh, ha, ha, I'm evil, villain.
Yeah.
He's a villain who's he's in trouble himself, and he's a human character. And
that's you're right. They've humanized him, and the fact that he's not the top of the food chain, so to speak, not the top of the hierarchy, is interesting. The fact that obviously it's later revealed in Spectre that he was part of the big Spectre organization, so he works for Blofeld, but at the time we didn't know that, so he was just part of this big organization who were onto him because he owed them money, and that was why he was doing what he was doing. But yeah, it's a very well written character, definitely.
Yeah, and I think Mads Mikkelsen gives very good performance as Le Chiffre, and it is interesting, like how he he's got the blood weeping from his eye, and I like that. I mean, and what makes his villain really intimidating as well is that scene where he strips Bond down naked, and he starts whipping him in the bollocks with the rope. I mean, you've never seen a villain.
Guys scratch the balls. I mean, what a great line to add in to diffuse the darkness of that scene.
Yeah, and I love the bit where he says, "Oh, but that is where you're so wrong." Like when Bond says, "Oh, they're going to cut you into tiny little pieces," and he's like, I'll seem to feed you. I was like, I'll feed you what you seem not to value. And then, he gets killed off, which is kind of shocking because when he gets killed off, there's like still an hour of the film left.
Well, it's not quite an hour. It's I think it's about 40 minutes or so. It's not quite an hour. It may have felt like that for you, but it definitely wasn't.
I'm not criticizing the film. I was just saying that, there's still like a bit of the film left for after he dies, but
his death was pretty sad, actually, yeah.
Yeah, his death was sudden, but it was done well. Yeah. So
yeah,
I mean, that's all I really have to say on Le Chiffre. He was a very good villain.
The villains of Quantum of Solace, very sort of torn between them, to be honest. I mean, I like General Medrano as a villain. I like the fact that he's tied to Camille's backstory, but I feel he should have been the main antagonist of the film. I think take away Dominic Green and have Medrano be head of the whole thing, and have Bond go after Medrano instead of Green, so then both Bond and Camille have it out with Medrano. I think that would have been a bit better personally. But I mean, as for Dominic Green, I mean, he's not the worst villain of the series, but he's pretty bad. I don't really like Dominic Green very much. Matthew Amalric just plays him as a total sissy, and it's ridiculous when he starts grabbing the axe and shrieking at Bond when they're fighting at the end. But I mean, he's got some okay moments, but he's just not very threatening. Again, he's a sissy. Like when he says, "Oh, please don't talk to me like I'm stupid." Like after Le Chiffre, it's not a very well written character. I don't think. just this random environmentalist. He doesn't really have a lot of feature in the story, to be honest. I mean, yeah, okay, him and Camille have got some history, and he'll see as part of the Quantum organization. And we never actually find out what he tells Bond. Like, he says, "I answered your questions. I told you what you wanted to know," but we don't find out. Actually, that's one thing I didn't mention in my review. We didn't find out what Green told Bond at the end, but
I suppose it doesn't matter because they tied it up in Spectre, what Quantum was.
Yeah,
so
I suppose, but it would have been nice to know what he'd said to Bond. I mean, he probably told him a load of bollocks anyway, but still, it would have been interesting. But never mind.
Well, he told him what he wanted to know.
Yeah. But at least Spectre kind of filled in the gaps for us, the audience. But for Green as a villain, not my favorite, to be honest. I mean, he's the weakest Craig villain, but I do like the way he dies, though. The fact that he gets to shove a can of motor oil in his stomach, after being stranded in the desert, which is interesting that Bond didn't shoot him to death or anything. He just sort of left him to die, because obviously Bond was killing a lot of people in that film. So yeah. But yeah, that's my thought on the Quantum of Solace villains. Although, yeah, Elvis is a shit henchman. Yes, I didn't mention that in my review, but yes, Elvis is shit. Anyway.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Elvis has left the building.
Yeah. I mean, as for me, Dominic Green, yeah, he's not the best villain, but I mean, I don't hate him. I mean, I can understand your criticisms about him not being physically, a threat to Bond, but that doesn't really bother me that much because it makes him more realistic. The fact that he's not this beef guy, that Bond can fight. But I certainly understand the criticisms against him. He's not my favorite villain, but I do think he's okay. I mean, he's definitely, not the worst for me. I mean, I think I'd take him over Gustav Graves any day, but yeah, I can understand some of the criticisms, like the scene where he sort of going with the axe is a bit okay. It's a bit much, but yeah. And as for Elvis, yeah, well, I agree. He's crap. Doesn't do anything. So yeah, I mean that's all I really have to say on the Quantum villains.
What about General Medrano? Very briefly, of course.
Oh yeah. General Medrano. I actually think he's a pretty good villain. I mean, I think it's interesting how Camille wants revenge on him because of what he did essentially, and yeah.
Do you think he was underutilized?
Yeah, probably yeah, but I do like the scene at the end where Camille manages to kill him in that fight in the hotel where he says to her, like, you're gonna die like your mother did or whatever, like,
Yeah.
That was good. And I do like the whole story of Camille trying to get revenge for her family, and I do like that scene where Bond sort of comforts her afterwards. But I thought he was a good villain. And probably out of the two, he's probably the better one. But yeah.
Okay. We'll move on. Briefly. I think if it's all right with you, man. What I was thinking was perhaps maybe we could do this hangout in 2 parts, because I think that way we could get a chance to say all that we wanted to say. So when we finish talking about the villains, why don't we call it a night? Because it's been 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it was
maybe like tomorrow or the day after or whenever you're free, we can do the next part and then continue talking about the action scenes and then the music and whatever else we want to talk about. Is that okay with you?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's getting late anyway, and this was your idea.
Yeah. Plus, we spent a while talking about No Time to Die. So, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, just briefly to wrap up. Skyfall, Raul Silva. Well, what can we say? I mean, absolutely terrific villain. I love Silva. The fact that he's got a personal tie to M was very interesting, and the fact that they were kind of giving M the retirement angle, and then they sort of paved the way for her demise was very sad. But Silva, he's a very interesting character. He appears to be somewhat sort of flamboyant at first, and he even tries to catch Bond off guard by pretending to be gay, which is funny. But Silver's he's very creepy and very sort of righteous villain, and I actually think he's quite scary when he confronts Severine when he's putting the shot glass on her head and he's like, "Darling, darling." He's really quite scary, but he's a good presence and he's a much more engaging character than I think Dominic Green was in the previous film. I do wish him and Bond had a more of a fight, but that doesn't matter too much. He's really good. I think he's a great villain, and the moment when he's about to shoot M in the inquiry scene is amazing. When Judi Dench looks really terrified, I must say. But no, he's got some fabulous moments, and his death is pretty grim as well when he gets stabbed in the back. And I love when Bond says to him, "Last rat standing." That was really good. But yeah, what do you think of Silver in Skyfall?
Absolute shit. No, only joking.
Oh, shitfall.
Skyturd is Inside Out fan says. Oh God. But yeah. No, I really like Silver. I've seen some. I think Harry said that he isn't a big fan of Silver. Like he thinks he's too comedic. But I mean, I disagree. I mean, yes, he does have his comedic moments, but he's still a very threatening villain. Like I love that scene where we first meet him. Like he comes down the lift and he, gives this speech about the rats to Bond. About the coconut. And his like the rats were in the cage and they ate each other, and then you release them back to the wild. They no longer eat coconut, they eat rat. Like that's just great. And I just really like the personal connection he has with M. Like he blames M essentially for the pain that he's had in his life. Like and that scene is great where he shows he's like, oh, do you know what it does to you? Hydrogen cyanide. And he and we find out that he bit into the cyanide capsule and his whole face is fucked up, and it's just it's great. It really is great. And
I love how he's a mother as well. In Skyfall, M stands for mother, which is an interesting idea.
Mother's calling. Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
and it's like Bond and Silver are like two halves of the same character. They're kind of the two boys fighting over mum, which is kind of a weird thing to say in this context, but it's a really thematic idea, which I think is very clever, and I think Sam Mendes definitely added a lot of context for Bond and Silver to kind of relate to one another through M, played by Judi Dench, which is really clever, I thought. But yeah, from Silver's point of view, it was really interesting to know that he was an MI6 agent who was traded for the other ones because he had been breaking the rules, and it's very clever.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about him is you almost kind of feel a little bit bad for him that M just sort of got rid of him like that. I mean, I know like it was explained that he sort of went over his head, but I mean at the same time, he kind of blames her for like the fact that I mean, he was a loyal agent, and then just to get traded away like that. But I mean, he really is an unhinged prick, and I love the ending where he's like, oh, he's in the church. It's like, oh, this is how it was meant to be, and he's like, do it, end it for us. When he gets the gun, and then we see the Bond. he throws the knife, and it's in Silver's back, and I love the bit where Bond just says to him before he dies, last rat standing. That was just. Brilliant. Oh, man. He's one of the best Bond villains, I think.
Oh, he definitely is. Javier Bardem was excellent. Just really, really excellent. And it actually takes him, we get through half of the film and it takes him, he doesn't appear till halfway in the film, but it's still great. I mean, also the point about M as well, when she says regret is unprofessional, when he was sort of, locked away and then he had to bite into the capsule and stuff. He blames her for all of his disfigurement because he says, "Look upon your work, mother," which is really creepy. Yeah. And I mean, the only other villain of Skyfall is Patrice, the sort of henchman. He doesn't say anything, but he's just
Like,
this guy who works for Silver who he steals the hard drive of all the agents at first.
I guess you could say M at the beginning is a bit of a villain. The way she said, "Take the bloody shot," like, but yeah,
I guess inadvertently so. I mean, Bond is definitely unhappy with her when he breaks into the house again and confronts her. He says,
what did you say? Take the bloody shot.
Take the bloody shot. But it's they have an interest.
God, can you imagine they made Judi Dench the bad guy or the the evil queen in numbers, like
evil queen in numbers. Yeah. I mean, yeah. In regards to the villains of Skyfall, I mean, obviously Silver is just brilliant, but Patrice is serviceable for what he has. But then he dies, in Shanghai.
Yeah,
he won't last very long. But he's a man of very few words. But
literally, Bond trying to get the information, he just falls from the window. Who are you working for? Ah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, we have to talk about Spectre because this is interesting. When this film came out, we kind of predicted half of what was going to happen, and we were right. The fact that Blofeld, played by Christoph Waltz, had revealed that all the previous Craig villains were part of Spectre, and they were working for him, and he was watching Bond the whole time since Vesper, since Casino Royale. He was there, and he was leaving this trail of breadcrumbs for Bond to follow, which I think was very interesting. And I personally really like Christoph Waltz as Blofeld. I know Waltz himself said he thought his performance was fine, but he wished he'd done better. But I thought he was pretty good, and he was pretty intimidating. He never raised his voice, and he was always he always knew which buttons to press. Lol.
I kind of said this. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Beckett from Pirates of the Caribbean in that he doesn't really raise his voice, and when he does, get angry, it is quite interesting because you don't really see him angry throughout the film. He never really raises his voice, and I kind of like that. I mean, I kind of like the fact that he isn't like a shouty villain, like I am a bad guy, yeah.
And considering how much jealousy and rage that he has towards Bond for destroying the relationship with his father, basically Bond stealing his dad from him inadvertently by his dad being more affectionate towards Bond, which I think was an interesting idea, and the fact that they are foster brothers definitely adds a more personal angle. It's not. I think people obviously aren't going to like that. Fair enough. There's certain people that don't agree with it, but I don't mind it. I think it's fine. It works. I just see it as Blofeld threw his toys out the pram. Basically couldn't deal with the fact that he was being neglected by his own dad, and then he killed his dad in the avalanche, which was But
I really liked. Sorry to interrupt. I really liked Waltz's Blofeld, and I really like the fact I love that scene where he tortures Bond with the drills. That was pretty dark, and I liked as well the fact with his Blofeld they call back to the original Blofeld, and I like they introduced his scar as a plot point, like when Madeline throws the explosive watch, and then we see later on that he's he's got the scar and and he's sort of blinded by it. And I really like that. Although saying that, I'm kind of disappointed with No Time to Die. His eyes just gone now. I kind of like the idea that he looked like the Blofeld that we saw that he only lived twice, and now he just kind of looks like he's got his eye missing. But
yeah. I mean, we'll see if that has changed since the trailer when the film comes out. But I mean, what do you think of the whole idea of the sort of tying all the Craig movies together with this idea of the villains being all part of Spectre, and it threads all the movies together subtly, and it had obviously Quantum was a sequel to Casino, but Skyfall was meant to be its own thing, and now Spectre has decided to take an idea and sort of tie these films together, and obviously No Time to Die is going to culminate this. So it makes the Craig movies, all five of them, sort of part of this one long-running narrative. Do you think that was a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people have complained about that, and like they don't like the idea that all the Craig films are tied together. But I do. I mean, I think it's good. I mean, it makes sense because Quantum. They say in Quantum, Mr. White's, oh, like you've never heard of us, and it makes sense that and I like the fact that they tied it all into Blofeld. The fact that Blofeld, like you said, is the author of all of Bond's pain. He was there. He was there behind just hid in the shadows, and
Yeah,
I think it's well done.
she was the big one, and your beloved M gone. That was all
Yeah.
me, Jade.
The offer of all your pain. Yeah. No, I thought the way they tied in all the Craig films worked very well, and it makes sense as well. It makes sense that Quantum was part of Spectre and all this stuff like Silva and things like that. I mean, I think it works really well. But yeah,
Yeah, and I think that it's an interesting arc, and it adds a bit more context to some of the events of Craig's era. I mean, never before have they done this sort of thing with the previous actors, but on this one occasion, it really does work, and the idea that, because there's so much about Bond's past in Craig's movies, and there's so much about the more emotional side of his character in these movies, in all four of them, well, soon to be five. So I think it's a really cool idea. I want to see how No Time to Die utilizes the organization themselves, Spectre, because they're clearly going to play a part in the film. But I wonder whether Safin is a member of Spectre or whether he is his own villain, or who knows. But I mean, Blofeld is returning, so that's a good sign. But no, it's a good idea, and also the links back with Madeline and Mr. White and everything, and bringing back Mr. White was a great decision, I think, and him kind of preluding Blofeld, and they definitely built up to Blofeld in that scene when he's everywhere. He's everywhere. It was a very clever thing to do, I thought. But okay, some people didn't like it. Fair enough, but I think it works great. I will defend that until the end.
yeah, I think we'll both defend Spectre to the end from the naysayers.
Yes, and it's very interesting now that you could watch all the Craig movies and it will make you remember them. Like if you get to Spectre, you'll be like, oh, okay, I see how this ties into Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace and Skyfall and all of that. And I think No Time to Die is definitely going to follow in that trend. I mean, they have explicitly said that they're going to call back and resolve the story that they started with Casino Royale. So it will be this epic movie saga, essentially, on its own. Like the Craig movies will be this isolated piece. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it, really. I mean, Christoph Waltz's Blofeld, I really like the guy, and I think he did a good job. And I like the fact that they had his cat in there as well.
And and I will go one step further and say he's probably my favorite Blofeld. I thought he did a really, really good job, and yeah.
Nice. I mean, one thing I will say is it's interesting how they've kind of updated Spectre as a group in the new age. The fact that they're surrounded more by technology and the fact that their plan was to conquer the world through global surveillance was quite clever, actually. But it was something that was good for the current time. I mean, for whatever reason, some people didn't seem to like that part of the plot, but I think it's important and is a very important issue in our current day because there is too much surveillance, and it was a great way to continue after Skyfall, I think.
Well, now we know what C stands for.
Oh yes, that brings me on to the other villain. I nearly forgot about him. C, or Max Denby, played by Andrew Scott. We'll call him C.
Isn't that what M stands for? Moron.
What do you think of Andrew Scott as C or Max Denby?
I thought he was really good. I mean, when he was first cast, I was kind of a little bit because I'm not really a fan of Sherlock, and I'm not really a fan of his portrayal of Sherlock. Of Moriarty in Sherlock. So I was kind of like, when I first heard he was cast, I was like, oh god, I don't know about that. But I actually quite liked his character, like the way Bond calls him C, and it's kind of interesting, the fact that his character is, well, he's essentially, you know, he doesn't care for the double O section. He wants them gone, and he's got this sort of surveillance system. And I really like that bit, where Ray Fiennes says, says, a license to kill is also a license not to kill, and we find out that, that he's been spying on Bond and stuff, and at the end, of course, it turns out he's working for Blofeld, and
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting at the end the way he sort of has that struggle with M, and then he falls to his death. That was quite good.
yeah. And it was interesting when M also said to him, "Well, you're a cocky little bastard, aren't you?" So they have a
Yeah.
really tense rivalry, which I really liked. And I liked that there was another aspect of the plot going on, which also allowed the MI6 regulars to be used a bit more,
Yeah.
which I appreciate. I'm not.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not saying they should do it for every film, but for that particular occasion, because Skyfall initiated these characters, these new people, I was worried they were just going to be put in the background, but no, they got a lot to do, which was lovely. I really liked that, and yeah, C is a great villain. He's he's one of the main players, and I like his rivalry with M, and I like the way he dies. And yeah, that the best line of the film is definitely, "Now we know what C stands for." I mean, it's kind of funny the fact that they call him C. It's just interesting, but I just was surprisingly good, and I think the villains of Spectre are great, are really really good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
if anything else you wanted to say about C, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I was just going to say I really like this character. And speaking of that, I mean, sort of going off topic a little bit, I really like Ray Fiennes as M, and I think he's actually one of the best M's. He's up there with Judi Dench and Bernard Lee, and
Yeah,
I really like to see more of his M. Like, because I'm kind of worried that after Creed, he might just reboot the whole thing again, get a new M. I really would like them to keep on Ray Fiennes as M, because he's great as M. I think he's really really good. In both films, Skyfall's Golf Mallory, and then in Spectre as
yeah.
M. But
I
yeah,
mean, to be fair, I see no reason why they can't keep the MI6 regulars after Craig leaves, but I guess we'll have to see what happens in the next couple of years or so. We'll have to wait and find out in terms of what's going to happen with that. But I do agree about Ray Fiennes. He does need a few more films before he kind of ranks among the top M's. But judging from his brief appearances so far in Skyfall and Spectre, I mean, in Spectre he was M, and Skyfall he only became M at the very end. But he was great in both films, and I look forward to seeing him in No Time to Die as well. So that'll be interesting. And also, the only other villain to talk about, I suppose, is Mr. White, who's been scattered across Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. But Inspector comes back for his death scene, which was very dark. It was a very dark scene. And he also turns out to be Madeline's daddy. So, yeah, what do you think of Mr. White's return in Spectre?
I really enjoyed it because, I mean, in Quantum he disappears after the opera scene, and it's nice that he sort of wraps up his storyline, um, uh, which was uh, which was really great, and I really like that scene between him and Bond, where he's like, "Oh, you're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mister Bond. Farewell." And it's kind of interesting how ill he is, and I mean, I think his character in all three films, he's been quite an interesting character because, I mean, in Casino, he comes in and he kills the chief, and then he appears at the end of Casino when Bond shoots him. He's like, "Oh, hello, Mister White," and my name's Bond, James Bond, and then later on
Way to
in
end
Quantum,
Casino.
yeah, then in Quantum, he's like, "Oh, it's time to get out." And he's talking to White he's in the boot of the car, and then he's like, "Oh, we've been there. You don't even know who we are." And then Spectre when they brought him back. I thought, yeah, he's great. He really is. He's great. And I like the fact that they brought him back and wrapped up his storyline. But yeah,
Yeah. And it was interesting how he was kind of on his deathbed when we saw him again. And he was like, I've got thallium in my body, and, and how he killed himself, which was quite intense. I must say. It was very dark and interesting. But it was nice that they brought him back to kind of connect Quantum of Solace and Casino Royale to Spectre, and that tied up. And it also paved the way to introduce Madeline as well, which I appreciated. It was very clever. But yeah, I mean, that's all I've got to say. I mean, is there anything else you want to say, Jack, or are you finished?
Fuck yeah! Joking. No, I don't really have anything else to say. Just being fun doing the hangout, and yeah, we could continue this in a part 2 sometime. But
yes, yeah, we're gonna we've decided to call it a night. It's quite late. We've been on for almost 4 hours, so I think
we can go in until tomorrow. Well,
we could do. I mean, we're under quarantine, so I've got nothing else to do. But yeah, my family is trying to sleep, so I better call it a night. But no, it's been lovely to do this, and the other thing I will say is I'm very much looking forward to No Time to Die, seeing Safin as our new villain, and seeing what he's like. So roll on November, I say. But this has been a lot of fun. So thank you, Jack, very much for joining me, and thank you all the guys in the live chat. Thank you very much for asking your questions and whatnot. It's been lovely having you on, and stay tuned for part 2 when we continue our discussion on the Bond series. I guess we'll next time talk about some of the action scenes and the music titles and soundtracks, I suppose, and anything else we can think of.
yeah.
But yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, thank you all for watching and listening. So until next time, so long for now. Ending broadcast.